Yeah, that's some deafening silence, isn't it? No bit this time. I normally kind of set us up with like oh, we're on the beach, or it's like some lovely locale in the middle of winter. But no, I think I can honestly say, in agreement with a lot of people, this year doesn't deserve a bit. It has kind of sucked it out of us.
That was a very chilling silence. I for a second I thought I had done something. Like, that was quiet. There was dead air for 10 minutes, and I was just being polite. I didn't even speak up to, like, ask, are you still there, Stu? I was just like, he'll start it eventually. He was like, did I offend him?
Yeah, I call you in over Discord. I set up the recording and everything, and it's like, you call in, or I call in, and I'm just like, not saying a word, and then all of a sudden we're recording.
Wow, it's a good thing I hit record before I even took the call.
But yes, if that dour setup weren't enough, this is our yearly kind of year in review chat, and oh boy, it's been one, folks. I'm sure you're well aware of. I'm sure plenty of people have talked about this. A lot of things have changed. A lot of things have been unexpectedly altered. I know you, Jake, had told me the other since you were listening back to the previous ones, that one of my resolutions this year was to go to the theater more. Well, the universe sure didn't want me doing that, and I did it.
It's like, no.
Yeah. Oh God, this has been a weird one, and we'll get into our usual kind of like breaking down our bests and worsts, and kind of both in a show capacity and personal capacity. But it feels worth mentioning the amount of bullshit that we have kind of all just, if not necessarily trudged through, at least been adjacent to.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you and I have been relatively fortunate in our employment consistency, but I know many others are not nearly as fortunate.
Of course, which is, not the best. Thankfully, everyone in my I'll even say extended family. I don't know anyone personally that ended up losing their job or getting laid off or anything like that, which is very good news. Most of them were able to work from home, and the ones that weren't were deemed essential, so they had to go out anyways, which isn't the best situation, but everyone that I know kept their job. So I'm at least grateful for that.
Yeah. Thank God we get to continue working in the middle of a global historical event.
Yeah, that's sort of what I've been telling people whenever they ask like how the year's treating me, because that seems like a standard greeting whenever I see like family or friends or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know what? This year is like a really bad year, I think, for the world and for society, but for me it hasn't been all that bad.
Yeah. I saw someone had reposted a tweet a few times, and it was someone saying, it went to the effect of, look, I know 2020 has been a really shitty year, but how many of us can really say this hasn't even been close to our worst year, like, personally? Like,
oh yeah,
like, if I got right down to it, it's like, yeah, this one, I don't even know if this would be like in the top 3 for my personal worst years. But I know that's sort of selfish sounding, but at the same time, it's like, small victories.
Right, it is. I can take a look from the outside and be like, it's unfortunate what a lot of people are having to go through, but I'm not gonna lie and be like, I'm right there with you, because at that point, that's like pandering.
Yeah,
it's like I've been fortunate. I still have my job. I ended up being able to move into a new place that had not had anyone in it for some time, so it's not like It was an infected home.
Always nice.
Yeah, and I've just been sort of living day by day through that. I work, I play games, I see family every now and then, watch stuff. Yeah. I've been reading again.
Oh yeah, I think above all this year I have consumed the widest breadth of media that I ever have. Not necessarily as many like movies, which like I kind of shot myself in the foot with that one going right into it. But between podcasts, like audio dramas, I've read some more. I've just kind of and consumed more like artistic works and everything. It's just like, wow, this is among one of my most creative years, punctuated by the fact that I'm, doing a lot of more personal creative work now again, which I haven't done for years, it feels like.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you got me working on stuff for my game again too. So I've been in that boat as well.
Yeah. So all in all, it's like it still just feels weird to be able to say it because it's like, it's like, hey, the world sucks, especially our particular country has been going through some particular shit, but our lives have been great.
I've been doing decent. I'm watching things. I walk every day.
Yeah. I say as I hack my lungs out again, just because the winter cold always gets in my lungs.
You know what? Sort of relating to the year as a whole. Actually, I don't think I brought this up to you. But the book that I'm currently in the middle of is Ready Player 2.
Oh, God, Jake, why?
And it's just as bad as I thought it would be.
I will never, ever understand your ability, and not only ability, but actual enjoyment of reading and consuming unironically terrible things.
So,
it's kind of like, this is a form of masochism, man. For
like movies and games, if they're bad, I can still enjoy them. Games to a lesser extent. It depends what kind of bad they are. But I can still enjoy them on some level. Books, I have a really hard time reading good books, let alone bad books. Honestly, the only reason I'm reading with it is because I've mentioned this podcast on the show before, but 372 Pages Will Never Get Back is a podcast that I've been listening to since they covered Armada by Ernest Cline like 2.5 years ago. They did Ready Player One, and then immediately once they were finished, they started doing Armada, and I joined the podcast. And I've stuck with it and read the books that they've done since then. And it's just, the whole premise is it's a podcast that is just a book club for books that we are probably going to hate. And it's a lot of fun. I really like the podcast. It has Mike Nelson of Mystery Science Theater fame and Riff Tracks. He's one of the hosts, and the other host is Connor Listoka, who also works for Riff Tracks. And it's just fun to read these things and sort of participate. I don't know.
It's nice to feel part of something.
Exactly. I get to have fun with it because it's like, oh, there's the reading assignment. I get to read through it, and I'm like, okay. They have a segment on the show called Dumbest Sentences of the Week, where all of the listeners like send in the worst sentence they read, and I was like, what is the dumbest thing that I just read in these 5 chapters? Oh, that sentence is pretty terrible. I'll send it in. And then they read those at the end of the show. I don't know. They turn it into a lot of fun. It makes me look forward to reading and then listening about something that otherwise I would not have the patience to sit through.
Yeah, see, like, I honestly might enjoy that podcast on its own. I do like, commentary shows and everything that talk about those kinds of terrible things, because it's like, okay, I get all the benefit of laughing at it without actually having to subject myself to it. Mm-hmm. I tend to take the most efficient route in that situation, but you go for the whole hog, which I both like admire in you and also worries me terribly. It's an admirable trait that you're able to do this. It's also insanely worrying that you seek it out.
It's fun. At least I don't think we're getting a Ready Player 2 movie, which is good.
I mean, never say never. We've come up with some weird stuff these days.
No, that's true. I guess the one, besides the fact that, hey, I'm reading that, another reason I wanted to bring up that book is because you famously read, the first 10 pages of Ready Player One and then put it down.
It was within 10 pages. By the time he started, talking about, how he was, booting up, old school Pac-Man on this computer or something, to escape from the world, and this world that this one creator found the 80s is so powerful. I literally was about to tear the page out. I was like, I am so illogically angry at this book from how it has been describing the 1980s, where it's I couldn't do it. I just couldn't.
he the funny thing about that is that he it's been so long since I read Ready Player One. I just remember it as like a late 70s and then all of the 80s just love fest.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like he's lost his way in Ready Player Two, because there's a decent chunk of 80s references, but there's a lot of things that he pulls from the 90s, the early 2000s, and then like the main character, who's the same main character as from the first book, so he's a pain in the ass, but you know about him by this point.
Yeah.
And you know what his interests are, but all of a sudden within one chapter he references like weird internet culture and creepypastas twice. Like, he references Herobrine and Sonic.exe within 2 pages of each other. I was like, there's no way that Ernest Cline knows what either of those things are.
Jake, it's like hearing all those words and then like my brain relating it back to the guy who described who's the first 10 pages of that dreaded book Ready Player One, and then combining that with the pure distilled cringeworthy memes and whatnot of the early 2000s and late 90s. I have never once in my life had to contemplate what the term would be for murdering a book, but this is up there. Like, this is the one moment where I'm like, the things I would do to a hard copy of this book would be considered a crime.
The funny
From
thing...
that description, it's just, I am so... like, it's like seething anger towards this, and I have not even actually seen it.
The funny thing is that I did get a hard copy version of this book, and it comes with this the dust jacket, the cover, which I take off when I read because those things are cumbersome and annoying.
Yes.
But there was sort of a joke amongst the podcast community and with the podcast hosts themselves before the book came out, where they made like a bingo scorecard sheet about like all the Ernest Cline-isms that they remember, and it's just like, if something pops up, mark it off. And then one of the spaces was just urged to throw the book across the room. So within the first couple within the first couple of chapters, there's a paragraph where the main character is talking about how he hooked up with another one of the main characters from the first book, and he is not describing them having sex, but talking about how they had sex before. Because it's crude and stupid. But the end of the paragraph is just, it says, like Depeche Mode, we just couldn't get enough. And I thought about that scorecard, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I can't read past that line. And so I closed the book, literally threw it across the room as a joke. And no one else is here. It's only to amuse myself. But the book hit a corner of the wall that's jutting out, and now there's a huge like gash on the back of my hardcover copy of Ready Player 2.
You know what? It deserves it. I'm honestly kind of like hurting a little bit from that sentence. Like, it's like I felt a year of my life not get like sucked away, but I felt my body react and shudder in such a way that's like, wow, that just like constricted my blood vessels just fractionally enough to shorten my lifespan. Like, I felt it. My body decided it does not want to live as long anymore.
My body was not ready.
It never will be.
But
no, that's so bad.
That is every single work he has ever created, though. That is the quality of writing in Armada.
I mean, yeah.
And
I don't know why for Armada I was weirdly okay with it. I think it was just because like I thought the concept of the story I actually thought was kind of interesting. But I don't think I paid that much attention to the writing itself. I think at the end of the day I was just kind of like, okay, cool, like, you know, VR like spaceship thing going on. It's like that's fine. I'm a fan of like, you know, Flyboy movies and stuff like that, so it makes sense.
Maybe it's because it constricted itself to a genre. It was focused on a very specific type of arcade shoot 'em up, like Space Invaders and Galaga and stuff like that, and, you know, movies like Top Gun or Wings or whatever, like the show. So it was like, I guess, I mean, I still think the writing is bad, but I think because he constricted his references to very specific genres it was easier to sit through, as opposed to Ready Player 1 and 2, which is a madman made a VR world based on everything he loves about the 80s. So, for example, in Ready Player 2, it's like, oh, there's a planet in the world that is just filled with John Candy NPCs. And it's like, oh, here's the Uncle Buck NPC, and here's John Candy in the great outdoors. He's fishing, but he's doing it poorly. It's like, it makes... And that'll be right next to a world based on Sonic the Hedgehog. It's just nonsense.
Jacob, this virtual world is, without mincing words, a vision of hell.
Yes.
I cannot conceivably think of another term for it. Like, I don't know whether it's just this year that has made me overly dramatic and everything, or it's just the fact that just bringing up Ernest Cline and all the hellish things he has brought forth into the creative world, I completely go past the point of, like, basic logical, like, making fun of things, haha, to borderline preaching gospel whenever I hear about these sorts of things, because it's like, it honestly frightens me how easy the shift is from, oh, just kind of joking around, to this is a vision of the deepest pits of the Stygian filth.
It's bad, yeah. And I guess the last...
I also think I've just been playing too much Hades.
Yes.
We'll get into that, I'm sure.
I guess the last thing I'll say about it, because I don't want to turn this into the Ernest Cline show, is
again.
I'm pretty I'm pretty sure that there weren't review copies sent out for this book, which is common amongst some, like, AAA games, and some big movies don't have private screenings beforehand.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because when I first got the book, I was reading the back of the dust cover with all these glowing reviews, and then after a few chapters, I'm like, this is even worse than the first one. This is... it's literally like the main character in the first book is annoying, but they turn him into, like, evil in this book. He's, like, actually evil. He has all the money in the world and, like, sues people into the ground because they make fun of him, and he outright says that he does that. I'm like, this is not a likable protagonist, even slightly.
Sheesh.
So I looked back at the back cover again because I was like, how could all these people love this book? I realized they're all reviews for Ready Player 1.
Oh,
because no one got a review copy for this book. They couldn't put any reviews for it on there.
That's almost comical. Wow. What world are we living in?
I don't know. And I didn't have to do any digging for that. At the top of the back of the dust cover, it says, glowing reviews for Ready Player 1 or something like that. And then it's like from USA Today and Huffington Post, all these words of admiration.
Which even those,
crazy.
those people deserve to not have careers with those kinds of reviews. Just like, I know, like, again, I'm being insanely dramatic with all of this, but it's my blood is at an all-time high pressure recently, so I will encourage us to move the heck on before I start saying stuff that could be used in court.
Well, like I said, that was the last thing I wanted to bring up, because that is
cool.
Very comical.
Oh my god, screw that guy. Just how dare he do these things to the creative arts, which I guess are just arts in general.
Yeah, anything can be art.
Well, speaking of which, we do have a show that we tend to do, and if I remember correctly, and like I said, you'd probably lead us more than I would, because it's just, honestly, I should have gone back to listen to our format before, but as you described, we tend to go back through the episodes of the year, and just kind of give our personal, like, number one movie and number infinity negative movie.
Yeah, just like what was the best
and worst movie.
Yeah,
best and worst movie. That's how a normal human being would say it.
So do you have specific thoughts on that?
As far as, like, admittedly, of all the ones we've done, for the best, there wasn't a whole lot of things that genuinely wowed me. This year was a lot more movies that we've seen, or I should say, this year we did a lot more movies that I had seen before, so a lot of them weren't exactly surprises for my opinions towards them. The biggest surprise, maybe, like, the original Tron. That one I was surprised at how much I liked. Just just because of how creative it was. But if I had to pick a number one just out of quality, it's probably going to have to come down to Seven Samurai. It's just like, I know it was a tank of a movie to get through. But just going back over it and then just, being able to see all the influences that movie had on modern cinema and a lot of like modern sci-fi and westerns and everything, it's just kind of hard to not love it, because it's just, you just see the amount of just care and genuine just heart to that, Kurosawa has put into this movie, and just all these characters just, fighting for their lives. I'd say, yeah, pretty definitively it would probably have to be Seven Samurai.
That's probably a good assessment, yeah.
Yeah, which is probably an easy out, because like it was probably of the, highest pedigree of anything we watched. But, I guess if I had to pick a close second, it'd probably be Del Toro's Hellboy, just because like it's Del Toro, and there's a lot wrong with it, but I just personally love it.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, that'll probably be the best for me. And then, like I said, most surprising would probably be the original Tron. Beyond that, a lot of them were, honestly, I couldn't quite nail them down. A lot of them were really weird. Seven Chances in The Bachelor is notable.
Yeah.
The original It was certainly nice to be able to see, because like for so long people touted it up as this horribly like scary thing, and then just watching it, it's like, this is just kind of fun. But beyond that, no. Like, I'm even looking back through the list of it now. It's like, I can't really say any one in particular. I mean, Beauty and the Beast, the new Beauty and the Beast, I still really like. Is if we're going for like, let's say like for the best original, I'll say The Seven Samurai, and then best remake, I'd say is Sleeping Beauty.
You mean Beauty and the Beast?
Beauty and the Beast. God, my brain.
That's okay.
Yeah. I still have Ernest Cline on the end of mine, so I'm just like, I'm still frothing. But yes, Beauty and the Beast for the best remake. What's about you, buddy?
That's probably fair. I'm still not, I mean, we're not going to hash it out again because we already had an episode all about it. Go listen to it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't the biggest fan of the 2017 Beauty and the Beast for various reasons.
Right.
If we're comparing remakes to the original, I guess that would probably be it. If we're talking like in that sense, just comparatively. Yeah. Though I mean, it could be a cheat, but I think that Inglourious Bastards is way better than the 78 one. 78 one was just so boring and bland.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, Inglourious Bastards, I kind of discount a little bit because I've just had such an unironic love for it for a long time. But that would still probably be up there in the top 3 for me.
Yeah, we'll take it from someone who hadn't seen the film all the way through before. But I think it is much better than the 78.
Yeah, which is a low bar, admittedly, but...
Exactly. I'm just thinking, if we're talking best remake compared to the original, that'd probably be it. Personal favorite, though, I gotta say, the 2001 Metropolis, the plot of it was sort of like, I mean, it's the same thing as 27. They have some extra things like the revolution concept that are thrown in there that just sort of get discarded. But the animation is great, and that fucking soundtrack, that song that I used to close out the episode, that fantastic song, I've listened to multiple times since watching that movie.
Oh yeah, good old friggin' oh dang it, the artist, I've forgotten his name.
I can't remember the name of the artist either, but
yeah, but y'all know the blind guy.
Yeah.
Which I had forgotten Metropolis was this year. Damn.
I love that soundtrack though. That's gotta be my favorite, I think. Just piecemeal, even just of all the ones that we've done this year.
Yeah. Damn it. Now I'm not sure if because I honestly I'm starting to think that one might have been my favorite too. I genuinely just forgot that it was this year. I'm gonna say it's tied for me with Seven Samurai because it's just like. It was just like unironically fun, you know? Like, so a lot of the movies we watch tend to kind of get lost in their own, source material, or their own message and that sort of thing. This one was just like, what if we just had a really cool, like, early anime city caper with a banging soundtrack? It's like, all right, fine, sure, let's go for it. It's one of those things that makes you want to watch Cowboy Bebop finally. After learning the story of that was basically like they approached the show creator, was like, hey, we're really just needing a TV show to sell model spaceships. Could you just come up with something? It's like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And they just whips out a brilliant story about loneliness with the most kick-ass jazz soundtrack of all time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool.
And it's funny that you call it early anime because it kind of fits, because it's 2001, so it's like, okay, that's like 40 years after the first anime hit TV.
Well, right.
But it's like Osamu Tezuka designs, because it's taken from his manga, and he was one of the first pioneers of the anime genre, so just the style makes it feel like it's older than it is.
That's a good point, yeah.
All these, like, Astro Boy looking characters.
That's the movie I was thinking of whenever I saw it. I was like, what is the character I'm thinking of with seeing these guys? It's Astro Boy.
Mm-hmm. Which, that's a movie that I still have not seen. I've seen the original episodes of the original series. I don't think all of it's available. The original series from like the 60s. But I have not seen the movie or any of the following series, so.
Yeah. And that was a very good one. See, now I got to look up the name of that artist because I feel bad. If you want to, you can go on to, if you want to talk about like worst movies or that sort of thing, but you know.
Everyone wants to go find that song. I Can't Stop Loving You is the best song to me in the movie.
Ray Charles.
And
Ray Charles.
Did he do that?
I mean, that song that we listened to, yeah, that was Ray Charles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember because I looked it up like right after, like we were done with the episode and everything. I was like, God, I need to listen to this song, and it was, sure enough, Ray Charles.
I don't feel that you're wrong because it feels like it fits. I feel like I would have remembered because I actually know who Ray Charles is. I feel like I would have remembered the name.
Exactly, because I was surprised by that too. I was like, oh yeah, Ray Charles. I'm surprised I hadn't recognized his voice.
Well, to be fair, when I think of the song, I mostly think of the chorus, which is like a bunch of women and men, like a chorus of women and men singing it, so.
Good point. And it did get something punctual. It was, like, increased in quality just for the fact that it was playing over one of the most insanely coolly animated destruction sequences that I've ever seen.
Yes.
God, that movie was cool. Okay, screw it. I'm putting Metropolis back at my top. I can't. Like, every time I think back on it, it's like, God, I love that movie.
Don't let me sway your opinion too much. I gotta get me a an actual physical copy of that, though. Just because, well, one, it was so fucking hard to find.
Yeah.
Just so I can have it.
Yeah, man, the lengths I went to find that movie online.
Ugh. Yeah. Again, go listen to that episode. You can actually hear us in the episode talk about what a pain in the ass it was to watch it.
Yeah. We took more time talking about how hard it was to watch it than we talked about the other Metropolis movie.
Which is fun. And
God, I think that was probably the biggest disappointment for me this year was the original Metropolis, because like it got touted up for so long, and then seeing it, I was like, it's really kind of dull.
Right. It's one of those things where it influenced so many things. Like Citizen Kane. It's like, oh yeah, that's a big influence on cinema, but God, if I sat through that movie once and it was very hard for me to sit through it, and I've had no desire to go back.
Yeah. It's like, there was a lot of, big things that innovated cooking, but, we eventually made things actually like taste good too. It's like we figured out scrambling an egg was pretty good, but we didn't really peak until we added like rancheros with it.
Oh, huevos rancheros. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
God, I'm hungry.
I'll eat later. If we are talking about the worst of the year, though, I don't think I actively hated anything this time around, which may have been influenced by the discussion we had during the end-of-year show last year, where it was like, I mean, I cannot be a fan of things, but I'm not outright hating anything, because like most everything has some level of merit, which of course we then in the very episode itself undercut with but you're wrong if you like The Departed, and then we laughed. But
there's exceptions to everything.
If we're
mark your time cards, we've mentioned it.
if we're going to quantify worst of the year as just like the one that I liked the least, which is the same thing I did with the best of the year, really. It's just what I liked the most. I don't think Metropolis 2001 is the best movie we covered. but it's
Right.
certainly my favorite.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My least favorite is probably the original Inglourious Basterds, just because it was so boring. Like,
Yeah.
even the devil in Daniel Webster had, like, the devil in it.
Yeah. I'm kind of in agreement there. Although I think for me, the Devil and Daniel Webster just irks out a little bit more because, like, at least like there was like explosions and action, and in Inglourious Basterds.
Which
But
is fair.
my goodness, Devil and Daniel Webster was dry. Like, we have watched some dry movies before that one was probably the driest. Which is, I guess, saying something. Of course, I'm trying to think of other dry movies we've done. It's like, for the most part, we've had movies that have some amount of action in them at one point or another. But that one, for the most part, I think was pretty much like, it started at a mild simmer, and it just kind of got less simmering from there as the movie went on. It's just, I couldn't enjoy myself.
I guess we're roughly in the same position there, too, then, of the least favorite. Yeah. Just because we're within the same two films.
Yeah. If I had to, like, be hard-pressed for, like... If I picked it, like... I want to think of one that, like, if thinking back on in retrospect, I might have liked even less. Boy, I think maybe... The original Italian Job, thinking back on it, like, I still wasn't a huge fan of that one either. Like, thinking back on it, I was like, God, that movie felt pointless.
It was. I remember, because it doesn't even have, like, a... So, yeah, I have problems with the 2003 Italian Job.
Of course.
And go listen to that episode, too. Just listen to every episode we did again.
Yes.
But at least it had cool car chases. And I think we even described it in the episode we did on it, but the original Italian Job, all the car chases were sort of like stunts you'd see at a car show. Like, there's that image with the huge building with the slanted rooftop where the three cars are sort of backing up as the police car is going up very slowly after them, and you're just seeing it from a mile away. And it feels like you're in the stands at an auto show, just watching a display. It doesn't feel like there's any urgency there.
Yeah, and they were all, like, really disconnected. Like, literally every single shot they were in, they were just being chased by one police car, and then they'd leave that police car in the dust in some comical fashion, and then they'd cut to the next scene, and all of a sudden they're being chased by another completely different police car, and then they do the same thing, and they did that, like, 4 times. It's like, okay, and they're all in different parts of the city, which seem completely unrelated to each other. It's like, where are we, and why are we doing this? It really was kind of one of those moments where it's like, okay, yeah, these filmmakers were given way more budget and way more, like, license to have fun than they really needed or should have gotten in the first place. And because, like, and even thinking back on it, if I remember right, there was a bunch of, like, just, like, loose dangling kind of, like conflict setup moments where they kind of set up as, like, okay, the mafia guys are going to be something that actually threatens them in the end, and then they didn't. It's like, the government people are going to be kind of setting up them at the end, and then they didn't. And then it's like, the professor guy, he got pinched, he's going to rat on them, and then he didn't.
Exactly. Like, that's the one that I've been thinking of since then is the moment where the professor, played by, I think it was Benny Hill. I think Benny Hill is the professor.
Yeah.
And
it was.
He pinches a woman and then gets, like, arrested. Or you think he gets arrested, but don't we see him later? It's such a forgettable film. But
maybe, I really don't know.
It's just a thread that's dropped completely, and it means nothing other than it's for the sake of trying to make you laugh, which, I mean, Benny Hill was the comedian that they got for the film, so that's what his job is to make you laugh.
Right.
But it doesn't do anything to service the plot.
Yeah. That might be the new worst one for me, just because of how much at the end it just kind of it's the worst one for me, I think, now, because it set up a bunch of really cool crap and then just so, like, unironically disappointed me by the end. I was like to the point of it being left on a literal cliffhanger where it's like, what was the point of all of that? It's like,
you know what? I think I'm going to agree with you, and I think I'm going to also switch mine to the original Italian Job as my least favorite of the year, because you know what? Inglourious Basterds I thought was really boring, but at least
Yep.
it had the scene where all those, this is going to sound really perverted at first, but all the naked women at the river that are bathing, they pull out guns and start firing. That's a better moment than the entirety of the 69 Italian Job has to offer.
Yeah, no, that was pretty fantastic. Yeah, that was pretty good. I like it.
Oh, perfect. Do you have any upsets? Like, what was your biggest upset of the year? I guess where you went into an episode thinking one way, and then you watched the movies and talked about them, and you had a completely you didn't expect to like one over the other. Do you have a thing like that? Because mine was definitely Devil and Daniel Webster and Shortcut to Happiness. Just because
that one's definitely up there for me. To a lesser extent, maybe Seven Samurai and Magnificent Seven, because I expected to like the Magnificent Seven a lot more than I did. Mostly just because I've heard about the Magnificent Seven for years, and it's it's one of the quintessential westerns. But just having kind of left it, and I was just kind of like, man, this is just kind of eh.
Blech.
And then by the end, I had just gotten an even greater respect. By the end of that episode specifically, I'd gotten even greater respect for Seven Samurai, just because of how deep into how we talked about artist integrity and just the nature of audience, the nature of restrictive film conditions, especially in America at that time, versus just Kurosawa being basically allowed to do whatever he wanted to with his work, and just how it really noticeably affected the difference in quality between the two of them. It was I actually got I got out of it a lot more than just the review. I got a genuinely deep opinion about just the difference of film and the integrity of film as a whole. That one was probably the most revelatory episode for me, because I know every year we kind of have one like that, but that one was a big one.
Oh yeah, we had a 20-minute diatribe about that.
Yeah.
I didn't cut a lot out of it, but there was some trimming I had to do because we were on a roll.
Yeah, we could have talked for days on that one,
I think.
But that one is probably the only one I can really think of for biggest upset, if only just because I didn't expect to get as in depth as I did.
No, that's good. I mean, that's the breadth of the podcast, though. Really, I think.
Yeah.
I don't have any thought. It was weird because last year we were going through the list. I was like, "Oh, I forgot we did this. Oh, we did that too. Oh, we didn't even talk about Spider-Man." But this year it felt more condensed. I don't know why. I only forgot. I saw Tomb Raider. I was like, "Oh, I forgot we did a Tomb Raider episode." But everything else was "Yeah, I remember doing that this year. Yeah, that one was this year."
I think this year we definitely picked a more eclectic collection of remakes. I feel for Halloween movies we did we could have done huge staples like we normally do, but we did Leprechaun and It, and I was that's
yeah.
Those are definitely out there, and I don't necessarily think it's because we're running out of ideas, because God knows Hollywood hasn't run out.
Especially for horror movies, that's 70% of remakes.
Yep.
Which we will talk about soon.
But I think this year we kind of both unconsciously made an effort to find movies that weren't necessarily as much in the public eye, which I think, and we did a lot of older movies as well. And I think I really do like that, because it definitely, like you said, we've and like I suggested at the beginning, this has been the widest breadth of movies and media I've consumed in a while, and I think this just kind of helped me out just on a creative level. So I definitely enjoy that we've done this, but at the same time, I'm sure we'll pick bigger staples next time around.
Probably. I mean, I'm still, because I've always sort of done, because my primary goal, occasionally, with the Muppets to top off the year, I'll pick something that I just like, but for the most part, I'm okay, haven't seen this before, or, oh, this is an AFI list movie that I haven't seen before, just so I can, fill out, I've seen this, I've experienced this, and then get to talk about it. But I kind of want to balance it a bit. I think I went too far this year.
I was honestly surprised at the movies you picked. It's a lot of them you picked. It's I obviously you fairly often find things that are just much more non public eye than I pick, just because you just know more older films and that sort of stuff. But this year, you definitely went above and beyond with it. I was like, looking back over this, like, if I had, like, just going back through this list, I'm just like, wow, I don't recognize a solid third of these. Like, at least the ones that you had picked. And the ones I do recognize, I didn't know had remakes, like in the case of Metropolis.
Exactly. That was the ones I mean, I had some interesting things this year, I think. Things that I had already liked and things that I'm glad I got the chance to experience. But I think Metropolis was like my home run of the year. I'm like, I'm glad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad that we did that.
Yep. As, Seven Samurai was mine.
Yes, exactly. Yours was definitely that. Not just for Seven Samurai, because it was a great film, but I mean, even with its flaws, Magnificent Seven.
So good movie.
I'm not a big fan of Western movies, and it's a Western movie that I actually enjoyed. So
yeah,
definitely.
You keep saying not a huge fan of Western movies, but I've been getting you into them more and more.
No, exactly. I mean, we already talked about it, but I have one planned for next year.
Nice.
As one of my picks already. So.
I've finally done it. Of course, now having seen all these Western movies, now I'm starting to be like, okay, they can be a little samey.
Yeah.
So we've kind of reached an equilibrium.
That's I'm trying to plan as far ahead for next year as possible, just so that I can be like, try to maximize, like, okay, this is more well known, this is kind of lesser known. One of the first things I had picked is like Halloween or October of next year. I'm like, I've got to do this. It's not like a huge staple. It's not obscure, but it's not a huge staple either. It's just a film that means a lot to me that I didn't know had a remake. So,
already,
I'm like, ooh, 2021 is planned out.
Awesome. I still have to figure out like any of mine. I've got a few that I've kind of had on a back burner, it feels like, but I just need to kind of like double check on a few ones, because I'm like, did that one have a remake, or am I just dreaming that?
Oh, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that later, if you don't mind sharing.
I mean, I would hope I would share, considering it's kind of the whole deal.
Well, yeah, I meant I meant unless you want to wait a couple weeks, but but yeah, I think that's the breadth of the movies for the podcast. Now, here's a bit of a stranger one that we usually do. But what about best and worst of the year? Just forget about what we watched for the podcast. Just what you watched throughout the course of the year. What were your highlights and the not highlights?
Right. Well, obviously this year has kind of been odd for newer films. As many of you know, and as we said at the beginning, theaters haven't really been open for a while. I don't know if I've actually seen any new films in the theater this year at all.
You have.
What's that?
I said you have. With me, and that's my favorite film of the year. But
Sonic was this year. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
It was in February.
Oh my god, I cannot believe it. Okay, yeah. Wow. Then yes, that is the one. That is the one I think I've seen this year in theaters. I'm sure I'd seen a couple other ones, but they are honestly just escaping me. But yeah, I forgot Sonic was this early. Was early in earlier this year. Yeah, no, that one's probably definitively at least for a film, probably my favorite new thing I've seen. But kind of another point I was kind of going into was like, as it's been hard to kind of consume new movies, and just like, I still am kind of weird about watching like brand new releases like on HBO or just like whatever the online service of the day is. I've mostly been consuming a lot of other media. The main one has been audio dramas for me, and I think I've listened to like 4 or 5 different ones at this point in the year, because like I needed something to listen to during work. And the first one that I really jumped onto was Wolf 359, which I described earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. It's an audio drama, like about 60 episodes of just this crew on this like deep space remote observation station around this particular star. It's honestly one of the coolest like dramas I've ever had the pleasure to listen to and but to like just, you know, enjoy on my own time. Some of the best sound design of anything I've ever heard. Like, you know, bar very little. Beyond that, the other big one, you know, you and I have both talked about has been the Magnus Archives, which has just been, you know, it's introduced me to, you know, if not a love of classical horror, it's definitely gotten me into the idea of horror as a concept. It's definitely I definitely think it's the most creative medium you can work with, just with like the fewest number of boundaries, just because, like, you know, the human mind can come up with basically anything. It's just whether or not it's too creepy for like fantasy or sci-fi or that sort of stuff. But with horror, it's like, no, the creepiness is the point. So it's definitely given me a lot to think about in that case. So if I had to say just like favorite just piece of media I've consumed, it'd just be the Magnus Archives as a whole, just because like it's just been so fun listening to it. But if I had to pick something a bit more concise, it'd probably be Wolf 359, just because it's such a cool story, and it's like it does so much with so. I say so little, but it's really just like it's a very restrictive setting. It's a very tight knit cast, and it's just able to fully weave this really, really cool story, this whole alternate future thing they have going on with it. It's just it's subtle, it's subtle, but it's also like very in your face with its comedy and all this other stuff. So yeah, that's probably my favorite thing I've just consumed this year, I should say. Been a weird year for that. I mean, I've listened to a lot of other podcasts and stuff. I'm still listening to the classic Mission to Zix, which is a, you know, comedy podcast, but it's a improv, like sci-fi kind of like classic space pulp style, but it's very like turned on its head, where it's like, oh, our grand stalwart crew is actually a bunch of dumbasses who all basically hate each other. So that one just actually just this year wrapped up its 4th season. Yeah, 4th. That and another horror podcast I listen to is the White Vault, which is a bit more slow burn, but it's, you know, certainly been getting going.
And this has been the year of audio dramas for you then, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, between that and audiobooks, like I haven't listened to as many audiobooks this year, weirdly enough. But you know, it's easier for me to do it, like to do that sort of thing. Like sitting down for a movie can be a lot. Reading a book is near impossible for me sometimes. But with those, it has enough of the story element that I like, you know, that I need to be able to consume, but while also just it's honestly just really cool to listen to people set these up and how they actually work audio, like a purely audio medium, and just making a fully like 3-dimensional picture for you to imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's my long-winded way of saying Sonic was the highlight for my movie watching, at least for brand new media. As far as like anything I've rewatched or anything like older movies that I finally gotten around to seeing, it hasn't been a lot. Just recently I finally properly watched Coco with Hannah. That one was lovely. I thought I had watched it before, actually, and I think I'm almost certain I've mentioned it on the show. I think I was just thinking about the other movie set around Dia de los Muertos. Thank you. The Day of the Dead, the Mexican Day of the Dead. And I think that was the Book of Life. That was another one that had come out a few years prior. But I think I was just thinking of that every time I thought back on Coco. I was like, nope, I watched the wrong thing.
I know I mentioned it on the show. I think like our Blade Runner episode forever ago. It was like, what have you been watching? And I was like, I watched Moana and Coco. And here's what I like and dislike about both of them.
Yep.
So I know I've brought it up, definitely.
Yeah, I think in my mind for the longest time I thought I had seen it, and then it started playing out. It's like, wow, okay, I don't remember any of this. Let's go.
Let's go. It's time.
I think I had just seen the trailers for it so often that I just kind of assumed I knew it. I thought it was fine. Like, you know, well, I say fine. I thought it was very lovely, but I think a lot of people kind of go on about it a bit too much. But I think that's just mostly just that, you know, I think it's mostly for the fact that it's just a genuinely cool Pixar movie set around a completely different culture, which is like, okay, yeah, that's so rare to see that it's honestly kind of refreshing.
Exactly. Having done this the Disney thing, which I'll talk about a bit when I start talking about my best and worst of the year. Really, the Disney films that stand out the most to me, obviously they've always done sort of adaptations of like fairy tales or books or whatever, and those are usually their strongest. Whenever they start straying away with like more out there ideas, or they start doing sequels, they, not always, but they start becoming less consistent, I guess.
I get what you mean.
But the most interesting ones to me really are the ones that are more focused on different mythos and culture, as opposed to just like an adaptation of a fairy tale. Like, because Pinocchio's decent. I mean, I say decent. I think it's fantastic. When I saw it, I said I thought it was still fantastic.
Right.
But at its core, it's an adaptation of an old fairy tale, a book. But what really stands out is the design and the aesthetic to me of everything, because it takes place in like Dutchland.
Yeah. I gotcha.
And a lot of the things that they cover, they do to a degree, and I think that's where it holds up the best. Like Beauty and the Beast is in France, and Aladdin is in Arabia, a fictional place in Arabia. And they get a bit of that, but when they really go hard into it, like I've talked up Hercules, not just for the mythos, but like the design aspect of it, the aesthetics, just every other line, they work in a reference to something Greek, whether it's a part of the mythos or just a part of the culture, and they'll turn it into puns. It's just enjoyable to watch. And that extends to like Mulan. Has a lot of that, even with its backgrounds, like the way they're painted, just screams that style and that design choice. And things like Moana and Princess and the Frog, which I watched here recently, like have that going for them too, just in how they're designed. And I think that's where Disney usually does their best work. And I wish they, I don't know, I wish they had more of that baked into their stuff. Like, everyone always remembers the DreamWorks film The Prince of Egypt. Well, I say always remembers. I use that phrase loosely. But people remember it and they're fond of it. But, what if Disney had something that was sort of Egypt related? It could be about the mythos like Hercules was, or it could just be a story that takes place, within the area and works in aspects of the culture, and that could be interesting.
Oh, yeah. I think kind of the problem with that is like, there's only so much you can get into before you start kind of straying into the realm of like, oh yeah, there's specifically like biblical stories tied in with this, and it seems like Disney tends to shy away from those.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, especially with that
obviously
area
Prince of Egypt, especially like
yeah. So yeah, no, I totally get that. But yeah, that's just what I think, because well, I guess I'll just say it since I'm already talking about it. But my New Year's resolution for last year to do the Disney canon, I did it. I finished it. It's done.
Well done.
Yes, there are a couple that I left out for what I think are good reasons. I didn't rewatch Winnie the Pooh or The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh because we covered them fairly recently on the podcast. It was within the first year of the show, so it was like 2 years ago. But, we went into depth talking about them, so they're still fairly fresh in my mind. And I didn't rewatch The Black Cauldron because I just rewatched it last year, in 2019. Okay. So that was fairly fresh, too. But within this past week, because we're recording this a week after the Aladdin episode, I went through and I did Tarzan, Atlantis, Fantasia 2000, Frozen, Frozen 2, Brother Bear, Wreck-It Ralph 2, Bolt, Treasure Planet, Princess and the Frog, Moana. I caught up on all the ones that I had left within the span of the week.
You can throw some movies back. My God. Like I can, like, if I watch one movie like in an evening, I'm like, I'm done.
Well, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm about to have a 2-week break from work, which is just going to be me working on my video game, putting more effort into that, and just doing nothing around the house. It's like, what am I going to do? I'm probably going to play video games. What do I like to do when I play video games? Listen to podcasts. So instead of listening to my podcast this past week while I work, I sat on my couch with my work laptop and 3 Disney movies on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and today. That was 15. And I was just like, I'll put them on and I'll watch them while I work. And that's what I did. And now I have a backlog of podcasts for the upcoming winter break that I can listen to.
Well, alrighty. Damn. I mean, yeah, I'll need to figure out what I'm doing with all my time off.
It's very methodical.
Yeah, you have there's a discipline to you that like I always forget is there, because like, you know, we joke around and everything, we tend to be chummy, but then once you get into something, I'm like, holy crap. Which I guess is also me whenever I get into something really creative. Like whenever I started writing up for the campaign that I'm running right now, I for the first time in my life had a concise like plot line down and everything for like the first few like missions and everything, and I had like the entire like mythos thought out in like a few days, and that somehow I was somehow able to like lend the new characters into the story and how they had connections with it. I was honestly surprised with myself by the end of it. I was like, oh wow. Where did that come from?
I remember we had this discussion once, not me and you, but there was a group of us, and it was me and Zach, a mutual friend, because we were talking about games, and I like to complete video games 100%, and like to the best of my ability. And I think it was him, it could have been someone else, brought up like, well, yeah, because you're like really good at video games or something like that. I'm like, no. If you've ever seen me play any of those games I played, I'm really not. In fact, I've only gotten worse over time. My problem is that I just don't quit, so it looks like I'm better because I put in more time until it's done.
Yeah.
That's all it really is. I like to, that's why I have lists of things. Like, oh, here's all the Disney films. I still have a checklist on my phone of all this Studio Ghibli films that I'm not done with, because there's like 5 lesser known ones I haven't watched yet. But the list is still there. I'll get around to it, I swear.
Fair enough. Yeah, like it is honestly like the amount of time it took for you to like to 100% Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Like I was genuinely worried for like your health at a certain point where I was like, like for those that don't know, there's a whole little mini game in the game Super Smash Bros. Brawl where you have to like collect stickers and things by like shooting coins, like in this like old arcade game style like mini game. And one of the things I think you were missing, it was like either a sticker or a trophy or something.
It's a single sticker, yeah.
It was a single sticker for, I think, what was it, Waluigi or something?
I don't even remember what it was.
But like, and the problem with how apparently Super Smash Bros. Brawl does its item drops and its like rarity drops and that sort of thing is that as you collect more of them, the ones you have left are rarer and rarer.
That's what I read.
Like, and honestly, I believe that, because like you got through like that first. I remember like you were doing kind of like starting off with that from what I remember, with whatever progress you had at the game pretty thus far, and I saw you collect a bunch of stuff. But that one took you like solid months, I feel like.
It did, and I didn't
like,
play it every day. I would put it down, and then like after a month, it'd be like, okay, this week on and off while I'm doing homework and going to classes, I'll come home and put in like 2 hours of grinding for nothing.
Yep. And it's just like when the day finally came, like, because you were just, I would hear the sound of it going on in the main room, like from my own room, because we were living together at the time. And the one day I start hearing you just like laughing like a madman. I'm like, okay, Jake has finally snapped. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to like sit him down on the couch and I'm going to give him some water and we're just going to make sure everything's okay. But as it turns out, you had actually done it and you had finally gotten it and you were actually just laughing for a video you were recording for proof.
I forgot you were there that day.
Yeah, I came in and it's just like, I saw you just like with the widest grin and I was just like genuinely kind of concerned for a few seconds. And then I saw that you had actually done it. I was like, oh, thank God. It's like I was genuinely like coming in there like my friend has lost his mind. I'm going to do what I can to help him. But then I saw that happen. I was like, oh, thank God.
Oh, yeah. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, everyone was very supportive on the group chat when you posted that video. Oh man, that was weird.
But I guess the moral of that story is that
You're a dedicated maniac.
I'm glad I was dedicated. I finished my goal for the most part. I think my exact New Year's resolution was to do it in chronological order, and I started doing that until I got to Fantasia in like February, and I was like, I don't really want to watch Fantasia right now. And then I just broke the chronological thing and just started watching whatever. But that's fine.
Right. It's like whatever, and whichever way you get to it.
Yeah, and now I'm ready for Raya and the Lost Dragon, which is coming out in March of next year. So
cool.
I'm caught up on those. But to make an even longer story short, I believe my best of the year would probably be Sonic. Not just because I think it's a pretty decent movie for what I was going and expecting, but just the experience of watching it. Well, one with a friend, but two, watching it at the Alamo Draft House, having nice food and nice chairs, and like being there so early because, like, you know, any other cinema, especially the ones near me, they have those ads for cell phones and then like a trivia game where it's like, oh, here's a warped image of Tom Hanks. Can you guess that it's Tom Hanks?
It's like, those are so stupid. I can't go to other theaters like that anymore.
I wish I had an Alamo Draft House I could go to, but the closest one to me is like an hour and a half to 2 hours away.
Are they not doing super well anymore? Like, are they at like risk of closing?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think most any theater right now is at risk of closing, but
yeah, I wasn't sure if they were like in particular or something.
I'm not followed through on them, but anyways, it was a nice night with a friend and nice food, and they had 15 to 20 minutes beforehand of like weird Brazilian Sonic commercials and, you know, a Japanese commercial for Sonic collector's cups at Burger King, and the intro to the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, all leading like, ooh, it was beautiful. Yeah,
it's like there really hasn't been a theater I've gone to other than them that's just like so clearly just loves movies and like the ridiculousness that can come along with that. It's like, yeah, that was a highlight of the year.
Yeah,
just like hanging out, and then I was just like, and then us just like beforehand, and then like afterwards, and like the morning after, just like chilling and talking and playing that one Magica game.
Yeah, that was a trip.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And then I guess the downside of the year, I don't know. I watched some things that were like boring or bad. Like Under the Rainbow, I remember complaining about after I'd watched it, but it wasn't all that bad. I just hated how it ended. It was goofy fun. And then that Bad Taste movie, like the first film that Peter Jackson ever made, it was just bland. It was just bland.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Those would probably be the downsides, movie wise.
Yeah. Honestly, thinking back for me, so one of the benefits of this year is that I got to choose a lot of what I was consuming, if not all of it, really. And I didn't end up watching really anything that I disliked wholly. I've disliked watching the news, if that counts. I've disliked, you know, the practice of like Disney and companies like that as a whole, if that also counts.
Yeah,
because like, you know, as like I said at the end of the Aladdin review, this is definitely a year of like watching all these companies and everything just kind of like completely drop any kind of veneer of like them genuinely like being this company with like a face and all this sort of stuff, and then they just keep advertising like going to the movies or going on these vacations, all these things. Meanwhile, people are, you know, dying. It's just like, wow, there just is no soul to these things anymore. It's just like, that's kind of like it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth to watch anything really new. But I think with that, if like to avoid the wider societal claims, because I even told myself going into this, I'm going to try to avoid the wider societal stuff as much as I can, mostly just because it's depressing and this really isn't the place for it. But one thing I will say is that there was a particular kind of thing that didn't happen this year that I would have disliked, and that's any kind of major Marvel movie releases. And I really thought back on that, and I was like, wow, no new Marvel movies. No real ones, anyways. I'm sure there was something earlier on in the year or whatever, if I'm just forgetting it at this point. But thinking back on it, nothing of value was changed. It's a year without Marvel, and everything's fine. Wow. It's just like I had that. I'll tell you the thing I hated with seeing the most was like here recently. I think it was at the like the video game awards or something, where like a bunch of like trailers and clips came out for a bunch of new Marvel TV shows that are coming out. And I looked at like one or two of them and like clips or gift sets that had popped up online, and I said to myself out loud, "Who on earth is actually looking forward to these?" Like the show, like like the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then like that Loki show. It's like I cannot imagine anyone in my life who is in any way clamoring for this. Like, the Marvel movies are fine on their own because they're like, okay, they're quick snippets and everything, and we go in and out in a couple hours. But like an entire show of them just seems like it's gonna be a waste. Like it's nothing like in comparison to like all the Star Wars shows that are coming out. Like the Mandalorian has been doing great. They're releasing a ton more stuff. There's a few I'm excited for myself actually. I had to do back with like the animated Clone Wars series. Like one of them's called The Bad Batch, which is like a series of characters from that show. But it's like thinking like on that, like for any of the Marvel shows, I cannot imagine anyone who's actually asking for this.
Yeah. I know what you're referring to. I didn't watch the Game Awards. I saw the results afterwards. We talked about it when we did the Aladdin thing. But because I think it was that night actually.
Yeah, and I preemptively said at the time, Hades got robbed, and I was correct. It did indeed get robbed.
It won Independent, didn't it? At least.
I think, but it should have won more.
Yeah. Well,
it's like,
but I do remember seeing all the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars stuff on the Disney Plus Day of Reckoning, as I called it, which was like 2 or 3 days ago. Yeah. Where just their Twitter went apeshit for 8 hours and posted every single thing that they have planned for the next 2 years.
Yeah, like my God, it really did just kind of just like bleh. Like they got one good hit out of the Mandalorian, and they were like, let's just freaking go for it.
I did see an image about that where it's like, oh, the Mandalorian worked, and it's like a picture of someone with a garbage can dumping garbage out, like to see what works, and it's like. The Bad Batch, Ahsoka, all these different Star Wars shows that are just like, come on, we gotta. Where's the Max Rebo movie? We need to create our own new canon because we completely deleted all of the book book
like the extended universe.
The extended universe. Yeah.
I will say though, I'm honestly kind of happy about a lot of the Star Wars stuff coming out because like I'd been saying for like I'd really come to the realization. Especially this year after just like the botching that was the last Star Wars movie, like major one, that the worst parts about Star Wars, the worst like elements of the story of Star Wars is really that straight up the main line of movies. Like thinking back on it, it's like, I don't really think any of their stories are that great. They get kind of caught up their own ass, and especially the sequel trilogy that just like really was trying to do its own was trying to capture the limelight again, but was just some of the worst writing ever. It's like how truly cataclysmic the situation was, where it's like the most profitable media company on earth was given the property rights to the most famous sci-fi of all time, and they just completely screwed the pooch. And then I just kind of thought back on it, especially when Mandalorian first came out, that was like, yeah, this stuff is these side elements and these bits that kind of harken back to the original inspiration of, Star Wars, like, Kurosawa movies and spaghetti westerns and everything. They're the money makers here. Like, they're the actual, like, really cool parts of this universe. And now seeing all these other shows come out and trying to expand on themselves and just, like, kind of going off of, like, side stories of, like, genuinely interesting characters, I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of cool.
I think the principle behind it's cool. I just don't trust them, and I'm not even a huge Star Wars person. But when I say trust them, I've seen the original trilogy. I'm not like, oh, it's the king of trilogies, king of movies, but I like them all right. And the main problem that every other Star Wars property that isn't like canceled by Disney and Lucasfilms, the problem is that they don't trust their own storytelling, I think. So they always have to relate it back to the Skywalkers or characters that you know. And, to that degree.
Yeah.
Like, they could have had that baby alien in Mandalorian be anything, but they had it be like a Yoda species.
And I will warn, from what I've heard, the finale of the most recent season does again tie back into the Skywalker thing.
Which I know exactly what it is just because I've already seen it online. I haven't watched the episodes, but that's what you get when you surf on the internet. Not that I care.
Right. I still defend it to the fact of like it's still got its own thing going on. It's just like meant to be like, oh, it's that character, cool, but it still also just has genuinely cool independent characters and action sequences on its own.
Which I
so like whenever they add in they add in elements of like other movies and stuff, they're kind of more for like spice. Where it's like, oh, cool, it's this character, and they have a different form of like actual, agency in this movie rather than the milquetoast character that Lucas had originally written for them.
Which is fine to a degree. It's just that I always feel like that's the constant that I see is that they have to tie it back in somehow. It can't be loosely connected. Like, that was my complaint with Joker. I was like, I'm really liking this, I'm liking this movie, whatever. And then they have to have a scene where Joker sees young Bruce Wayne because Bruce Wayne has to be in it somehow. And I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense because the Waynes are like one of the richest families in Gotham. And so obviously, everyone knows who the kid is. But still,
right.
He like visits him. It's like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to tie in the Joker's backstory to the Waynes in any way. It's not necessary, and everyone does that. And it reminds me, actually, of an episode from, I think, season 7 of The Simpsons, which was in back in, like, 1996. But they had an episode called The Simpsons Spin-Off Showcase, which was 3 short segments in the episode of fake proposals for spin-offs. And the middle one is called Wiggum PI, which is the chief of police, Clancy Wiggum, and the principal of the school, Seymour Skinner, are like a buddy cop duo that moved to New Orleans. And they're in the middle of solving this mystery about who kidnapped Wiggum's son, Ralph. And they make a joke out of the fact that, the show can't stand on its own. So the Simpsons just show up. And Wiggum's like, what are you doing at Mardi Gras? It reminds me of that, where it's like, oh, well, you have to let them know that it's tied in somehow. And having a character like Ahsoka or like a Yoda species appear in The Mandalorian isn't egregious. It's just, I think it's just the fact that I've seen it so many times before where it's like, well, we have to tie it in somehow. We cannot have a Star Wars movie or property that does not have the Skywalkers in it at all, based on what you were saying and what I read. It gets tiring, I think. It's like, just have an original story in this universe that can have to do with the Jedi, it can have to do with the Sith, it can have to do with the Ewoks and the Wookiees living together or whatever. I don't care. I don't give a shit what it's about. But you don't have to tie it into the Skywalkers or Vader. You don't have to.
Right.
It makes sense if it's during the time period.
Get what you mean.
Yeah, it makes sense if it's during the time period of the Empire. If someone mentions, Darth Vader walking around blowing up, them flying around blowing up planets or whatever, because that would be a big thing politically. But you don't have to have that story. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
No, I get what you're getting at. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's it's us kind of like lambasting the needing to tie to this pretty tired plot of the Skywalkers.
Exactly.
It's which is really annoying now that they've called the full series of movies the Skywalker saga, which is No, just like call it Star Wars, right? Like, yeah, the main characters of the Skywalkers, like there's more going on. Also, objectively, there are no Skywalkers in the sequel trilogy. Like, they're none of the main characters. I don't care what this stupid movie's trying to be like. Oh, raise an honorary Skywalker. No, that's stupid. Shut the hell up. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Could have just made her the daughter of Luke or Obi-Wan or something, but it's like, no, I had to have this whole roundabout stupid nonsense. I'm gonna be on a soapbox. I'm not gonna continue. I will go into it for hours.
But Kylo is a Skywalker, and he's a main character.
Every time I hear that character's name, I want to actually kind of like, I want to reach into my nose and pull out my brain. I just want to mummify myself. I'm just like, I'm so sick of that character. I don't like Adam Driver. He's terrible. Everyone going on, it's like, oh, he's such a good actor. Oh, he's so attractive. It's like, both of those things are objectively false. It's like, I'm sorry.
I don't think he's good in the Star Wars movies, but I liked him in Black Klansman, at least. I think that's the only other thing I've seen him in.
Oh, yeah, okay, that one was fine. When he's not like the main character or like anything close to like, I don't know. I think I'm mostly just bitter at like how much like Tumblr like sexualized him in the movies, where it's like I've never seen a less attractive like villain. Like I've seen so many attractive villains. This guy's just like he looks like a human wingnut. It's like he's got this weird face going on. It's like, what is it with Tumblr and weird face guys like that and Benedict Cumberbatch? I don't know. Again, I'm just bitter.
Yeah, I get you.
I lost myself there for a second. I was talking about how much I loved the side stories of Star Wars. That like the moment I got into the bad stuff, it was like an allergic reaction.
I guess something interesting that we could probably do is since we're already talking about like some more recent big name films, and I mentioned Joker, I guess we can talk about award shows, which barely occurred. I don't think either of us paid any actual attention, but I have at the very least, I have the Oscars webpage up. So we could just look at this.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm good with that.
So since I was talking about it, Joker is interesting because it won 2 awards. And I remember the night after, everyone was pissed because it didn't win more.
Yeah.
Including Best Picture.
Yeah. It's like, it was fine. Like, I thought it was, like, I still always kind of like, that Dark Knight style of, like, kind of making these stories not necessarily, like, realistic, but at least, like, believable, Because, like, The Dark Knight pulls off some crazy stunts and everything, and the Joker does a lot of stuff that's, like, I feel like that's just wouldn't be a thing that would happen in reality. But it's the sort of thing where it's, like, when you buy into the amount of, like, the suspension of disbelief the movie's trying to get you to do, it does it well. It's like there was never a point where it's like it stretched its own limits too far. So like I liked it for that, but like beyond that, like I thought it was like I honestly forgot about it for the most part.
Yeah, I did too. I think I remember Joaquin Phoenix winning Best Lead Actor more than I remember the actual movie.
Yeah, because which I think he deserved it at the very least.
His acceptance speech was like insane.
Well, yeah, because it's Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
It's like that was the only thing I expected.
It's just the fact that everyone let him get up there and didn't like give him a time constraint or have somebody watching him because they really should have known. Is perhaps the most baffling thing. But the most important part, I guess, about the Oscars is that Parasite in 1917, which I believe you said you had watched when it came out.
I watched it, not when it came out. I found it online at a less than reputable site by accident. So like, I was planning on doing something else for the evening. I saw that and I was like, okay, sure.
Okay, I do recall that now, but you saw both of those. Yeah. And those more or less took over the Oscars. I think both of them won like 3 or 4 awards. I'd say 3. Both of them won 3 awards each, with Parasite taking Best Film.
Mm-hmm. Which it definitely deserved.
Yeah, which I haven't seen, but also that film has... I mean, I should still give it a watch just for the cinematography and the acting, but more or less just the story of it has already been ruined for me.
Right.
By the powers that be.
Well, right. But it's like, ultimately we get right down to the story. It's like, boiling it all the way down, the story itself isn't really that unique, but it's like the way it was just portrayed and how just genuinely in your face the whole thing was, and just like a lot of the very cool symbolism about the situation was kind of what was really what tied it all together.
Right.
Because ultimately there's only so many variations of the story of like rich versus poor, like the have-nots versus the haves versus the have-nots you can get down to.
Exactly.
It's more in how you package it.
It can be boiled down more simply. Yeah. But something else I did want to bring up, because I haven't seen any of the animated feature film nominees. I haven't seen any of them. But you saw Klaus, right? Or Klaus?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that over around at Christmas time with the family.
Yeah, I remember you saying you'd seen that. So how do you? I remember you saying you liked it.
I liked it quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about Toy Story 4 winning Best Animated Feature Film over it? I know I'm setting you up, but
no, that's fine. It didn't deserve it. Just objectively, like thinking back on it, it's like I still loved Toy Story 4 just because like I enjoy Toy Story beyond belief. But it is definitely one of the weaker Disney animated films when you get right down to it. It's just I really don't know what they were trying to do with it, because it's like I really just think they were just trying to get one last strike of lightning from the series. But like, yeah, it should have ended with Toy Story 3, because like it left it off perfectly, and it really just kind of Toy Story 4 just spun its wheels, and it's like, and like I mentioned so many times before, it just tried to add all these extra characters and everything, and it just ended up having way too much, and it just felt very thin and like kind of flavorless, and it had the ending moment of like, now these characters are in completely different situations, and it's kind of just left this whole, what would have been a nice story wrapped up in a little bow, with this kind of weird, like, lingering thought. Which, like, I don't want to necessarily spoil, but, like, without doing that, it's Woody is now, like, separated permanently from the rest of the toys, and, like, Jesse's kind of taken his place. And it's like, but it didn't do it in any kind of like cool way. It really was just kind of like, oh, I'm gone now, Jesse. You're the more favorite toy now. Bye. It's like, it didn't really do anything that kind of like, it didn't in any way set up Jesse to kind of be like a new like main protagonist for any subsequent movies, which I hope to God there aren't anymore. Just like, it's we're good. We're done.
We'll talk about that.
But it just really didn't have anything to say in the end. It was just kind of like, okay, here's this situation. Woody's basically gone now. It's like, okay, that's kind of weird.
Right.
And so, like, Klaus definitely deserved it more. I don't know necessarily if I would have, if on its own, I think it would have been worthy of movie of the year, animated film of the year. I think it was fine. I think it was kind of a fun take on the, story of Santa Claus. But it's more just kind of like, I just love the animation style. It's like, it's the same people behind, Treasure Planet and whatnot.
Right.
But yeah, like it definitely deserved it more than Toy Story. That was definitely another one of the moments of like, oh, it's a Disney Pixar movie. Of course they're going to get it.
Hey, yeah, that's the thing. I guess I asked because of all the animated the feature film nominees, like, I don't know what I Lost My Body is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that is.
But everything else, like How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, which I think is the third How to Train Your Dragon. They had Missing Link, which I believe was Laika.
That was a Laika one, which I unfortunately never saw.
I didn't.
It was
either.
really kind of sad. I didn't see a lot of ads for it, which is weird. I don't know why Laika lately is just like, if either movies in general have just been giving it the shaft or something, but it's like I just haven't seen a lot of big ads for them.
Yeah, the most I actually remember, they had an ad for Kubo. Yeah, I don't remember, but specifically for Kubo back when it was coming out, where it was showing how one of the pivotal fight scenes was animated, and that was an actual advertisement that was later, like, in full, it was a special feature, but they turned part of it into an ad that I saw on YouTube a lot. And since then, I only knew about Missing Link because I saw a poster for it in a theater. And that's it. I never saw a single ad for it.
Yeah. I think I just saw like I think it came up as an ad before a video I saw one time. I was like, "Holy crap, what?"
That's possible.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I almost completely forgot about that. But yeah, like, what is? Like, I feel like animation's had a weird time of it lately. Have you?
Yes.
Like, it's just like I don't know how else to word it. It just feels like it's either not been as much in the public consciousness or something. I don't know.
Well, Pixar's had it a bit rough recently because they haven't been putting out really the
Great movies.
quality that people have been expecting, and the last two Disney animated picture releases have both been sequels.
Yeah.
Ralph Breaks the Internet and Frozen 2. So they're kind of out of the running, and everyone else, like DreamWorks, has been like in hiding almost. And Blue
Yeah.
Sky, who knows what the hell they do. We get shit like Spies in Disguise and whatever.
Oh yeah, that.
And
Yeah, that I almost I like that. Like, did the Secret Life of Pets come out recently too?
the
Like the
sequel
second one.
to it, yeah,
Yeah.
I think came out near the top of the year, or if not, then last year. This year's been a mess, but animated films have not been doing that well. I'd say within the last 2 years, the only one that I'd say is like worth anything that's come out has been Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Man. Which is sad to think about, but you know.
It's it's very sad, but hey, who knows? Fox has a second Simpsons movie, a Bob's Burgers movie, and a Family Guy movie all in the works. And who knows when those will come out, but 2D animation in the theaters once again.
Hmm. Well, theaters and loose air quotes,
Yes.
depending on how that goes. I'm still hoping to God that movies survive, like theaters survive to some capacity, because like I can't, and like it's so fun. I love them. I love movie theaters. Don't take that from me.
Um I'm gonna close. I think we're done for the most part with the awards thing. I don't have anything else
Yeah.
to say on it. But
Yeah, I mean, like we have both kind of firmly established at this point we're not that attentive of the award shows anymore, because it's like just the amount of like just waffling they do in them, and just like how much it's just like it's just like disrespect they have for a lot of the smaller, what would be considered like smaller awards and everything. It's like, man, like why even bother at this point?
So I think that it's strange because I really think that I like to see the results just to like think about them like things I may have seen and discuss them, but I don't put any stock in it anymore. I have no interest in actually watching the program.
Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty much it.
God, I wonder what's going to be on the Oscars this year. That's going to be weird.
Oh god, Sonic is like one of the only things that came out. It's gotta be nominated.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. All I know is that the only like major superhero movie that came out this year was Harley Quinn, and I was like, okay, yeah, that deserves it. I think actually, okay, I say that I think the new Wonder Woman is also out on streaming now.
84.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, not a whole lot came out this year.
Beautiful. But
Which is weird, and I'm like, it's also like, have you noticed like it feels almost kind of freeing not constantly seeing all these like ads for movies and everything. Like, thinking back on it, it's like, wow, I did not get beaten over the head with any new superhero movie or whatever the new like blockbuster of the day is. Like, you know, some of them I'm kind of disappointed that it didn't get to come out. I wanted to be able to see Dune.
oh yeah, I want to do an
That
episode
and,
on
like,
it.
That and like, you know, the new Witcher, like new season of The Witcher got delayed pretty significantly. Beyond that, like, I haven't seen a whole lot of big ads. It's like the only ads I've seen have been the ones that just make me lose faith in humanity. But as far as movies and everything, I haven't really seen anything major, which is kind of nice.
Something of note, I guess, because we're talking about streaming, but also because we were just talking about animated features. How do you?
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about the fact that Raya and the Last Dragon is going to be on Disney Plus in March with the same Mulan deal, where it's like $30 premium access, but Pixar's soul is going to go up for free.
The further condemnation of the Disney Animated Studios and the Disney Creative Studios being pure economic leeches. That's pretty much like the long and short of it I can think of for that. It's like there's absolutely no reason to do it, but they're doing it because they can, and they know it will work. Like eventually, like I know also Disney Plus is going to be going up in price come next March.
Yeah.
So like there is really no other purpose for it than just like they know they can, and they will do it. And even with all the controversy around the new Mulan remake, more and more people are kind of getting over that, as it were. And it's like, and people are just kind of doing what they will. It's like, which is fine in the end. It's like, if you want to watch the movie, fine. It's just like, it's more just like, I have a problem with the people like implementing that practice.
Yeah. I mean, I still have no drive to see the new Mulan. I've seen tons of like shots and scenes cut out from it and put on Twitter about like, look how fucking stupid this is.
Weirdly enough, I haven't seen like any screenshots for it, which is honestly surprising.
Really? Have you seen any scenes?
No, none at all. Like I have not seen like anything for it. Which I figured was just, you know, Disney's like extremely well versed like DRMing.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I haven't seen a dang thing.
I did see like a scene, and I wasn't warned of this beforehand, of course, not that I really care, but I saw a scene on Twitter which is essentially just the climax of the movie. And it's like it was 30 seconds long, and it was the goofiest fucking shit I've ever seen. But still, I have no desire to see the movie, but I'll watch it like if we do an episode for Mulan on the podcast. The important thing is that I didn't pay $30 to see it beforehand.
Yeah,
I think.
No, that's fair. That's very fair. Yeah, no, it's like I can't say I support that even slightly, but I know that we're going to be seeing that more and more. I know like streaming services and everything, and apparently another like streaming service is like getting started here soon or something. It's called like Peacock or something. I don't know.
Oh, Peacock's been around for a bit. It's
yeah, that's
NBC's.
But there's another one coming out. Like I think like The Office is moving to from Netflix.
Oh.
But it's like, oh yeah, okay, so we are just objectively just going back to cable now. Like it's just cable, and we have to get all these different things, and it doesn't even have the benefit of like a cable package.
Beautiful.
It's like I really cannot imagine myself watching a lot of this new stuff. I'm probably just gonna stick to like, you know, my family Netflix account and like renting the occasional thing off Amazon as they become available.
Yeah, I have no problem with renting stuff off Amazon. Thanks.
Right, like that's fine. Like, you know, and I'm the type of person that I usually only need to see a movie once, maybe twice if I really had enjoyed it. But yeah, no, it's just like seeing all this extra stuff come out with it. It gets a little tiresome.
I did see a funny thing on Twitter where it was like HBO Max was announcing that here within the next couple of weeks they were going to be adding series. And I looked at it, I was like, oh, what's HBO Max adding? Courage the Cowardly Dog, Ed, Ed and Eddie, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Codename Kids Next Door. Like, all of these Cartoon Network shows are getting added to HBO Max. And I was like, well, that's cool, because beforehand they had a couple of Cartoon Network shows and then big things missing from the catalog. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Get that stuff on HBO Max. And then fucking shut down the Boomerang app. If I see that they move all that stuff over to HBO Max and they still have the Boomerang app open, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah. That's
disgusting.
Yeah, that's the word for it. like I can dance around it as much as I want. But it's like, yeah, just like all these practices, it's just disgusting at this point. And it's complete, like I had said before, it's just like it has completely lost any sense of like they're attempting to make it seem like a smooth transition thing where it's like they at least give people time for these things, or like they give a very, very beneficial, like very generous package for first signing up, which is like, I'm fine with those, because like if prices eventually go up later, like that's how Netflix was early on. Like once they had more and more their own into like, you know, original productions, like it was actually pretty generous and it was actually really cool. But as time went on, they realized, oh, we can just start canceling these shows at a certain point, because it's like then the amount of new subscribers we get drops off at a certain point, and now we don't have to keep paying for them to be made, and so you just end up with like half-made shows.
Exactly.
And now it's like we're having the process just kind of streamlined, where it's like They're really not even pretending to give beneficial packages. It's like, it's over here now. It costs this much. Come get it. We know you will pay for it. It's like, awesome.
They know people pay for it.
Exactly. That's the biggest one. It's like, to all the people out there, just stop. Just be okay with the things you currently have for like a year. And then like all of a sudden all their profit margins will drop to nothing. Because as we've learned from this year, all it takes is a single year of a slow economic slowdown and entire industries tank. Like, it's not even like a little bit like, they could go through if they go even a slight slowdown, they start to just implode. It's like, you do that, all this stuff could just stop. All these big production companies and all these big things will all of a sudden start running for situations that are more efficient and user friendly. And they'll get all their money back instead of just trying to penny and dime us as always.
And one of the worst things is that is that a big company owns multiple like subsidiaries of streaming services and then keeps them all open as an excuse to gain multiple subscriptions. One of the most glaring ones to me that I don't see enough people talking about is the fact that Disney has Disney Plus and they have Hulu. But the separation between them is insane because 31 seasons of The Simpsons are now available on Disney Plus. Okay. All the seasons of Family Guy are on Hulu. Why is Family Guy on Hulu and not Disney Plus? It's because Disney has a specific image of family friendliness to keep, and they're willing to go a certain length, but not Family Guy length. So keep Family Guy and Community and all those other things on Hulu. Which is like the adult channel, or the adult streaming service, but you gotta pay a fucking subscription for both of them.
Yeah, and one of them still has ads.
Yes.
Which is like the biggest thing.
That's the worst shit. That I am thankful for, and if that changes, then we should just riot. I mean, we should have already rioted.
There's a lot of things we should have rioted about earlier on.
But if Disney Plus like adds ads for any reason, then I think that I'm finally there. I'm finally at the point. I'm like, okay, let's go out. Yeah,
and like I've tried to just like be optimistic about this stuff, but it's like the more and more I see it, the more I'm just like, yeah, and like the biggest thing I've seen has been like this whole idea of like, oh, password sharing is equivalent to piracy. It's like, it is no more equivalent to privacy than like loaning your friend your DVD. It is just companies pissy and moaning about the fact that they can't nickel and dime each individual human being on Earth. It's like, oh no, there's a person who's able to take advantage of this public streaming media that we can't just beam straight into their brains and, charge their credit cards. Oh no. It's like, which I say that like friggin', I'm sure that world is coming. But yeah, it's just I'm just sick of this. Like, the biggest thing about all of it is like they're still trying to put on like this even like this paper thin veil of like, oh, like in these trying times and all these sorts of bullshit. It's like, oh, we are offering all these different things. Like, we know everyone's like the way we watch movies and TV has changed, so we give you all these packages. But it's like it's so paper thin at this point where it's like they really are just screwing us at this point. It's like, God, why are you even pretending? I would honestly just prefer it at this point if they just went, hey, we're Disney. We own everything. We own everything specifically that you love. You're going to pay us money for it. Otherwise, you will not get to have it. Like, I would honestly respect them if they did that. It's like, fine. At least they're honest. Christ.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I'd like to be optimistic, but I can't. It's impossible.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's like, it's kind of also the thing of like, I will always have respect for like the creative teams and everything behind Disney, like the people that come up with a genuinely, creative works and are actually working their asses off to get this stuff done. But there are still people out there who are like fully defending like Disney as a whole, and like, oh, it's like, oh, Disney World's like where magic happens and where happiness happens. It's like Disney World and all the things they do is a thin veil for you to spend money. Like we need to all accept that, like, as a whole. Like, there are still people who are like, you're still allowed to enjoy it. We just also need to accept that this is just a parasitical freaking company who just wants money. It's like, okay, you're allowed to like to know both. It's like, okay, yeah, I do like going to Disney World, and also it is a monument to all our economic sins.
Yeah.
It's just like all these people are still defending them like tooth and nail. It's absurd.
Thankfully, I haven't seen too much of that.
Yeah, I've seen it less and less, which is making me very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just I wish this year had kind of nailed that into more people's heads that these companies are genuinely just kind of scumbags. Like when you get right down to it, like at least the greater powers of them. It's like how much control they have over basically all the media we consume, and by extension, a lot of like modern society and culture, which is scary to think about. It's kind of gotten to the point of being inexcusable, and like I keep seeing the image pop up, like the joke from the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, like the line, "You best start believing in ghost stories because you're in one." It's like, "You best start believing in the cyberpunk dystopia because you're in one." It's like, yeah, no, that's pretty true. Sheesh.
Well,
speaking of which, the cyberpunk game isn't doing super well, so that's some irony right there.
Nope, we talked to you want to hear more about cyberpunk, go listen to the Aladdin episode.
Oh yeah. Of course, now it's been pulled from the Sony, like the Sony PlayStation Store entirely. It's like
they're offering refunds.
Yeah, like I want to the knee-jerk reaction is to blame the developers for it, but it's like, you know what? No, I'm blaming gamer society once again on it, and I am once again defending that they need to be bullied more. That they push these guys to make this game that was clearly unfinished, and just like push them and pressure them, and now they're lambasting them for this. It's like, I mean, y'all are such stupid people.
Yeah, I don't work in the video game industry, but as someone who works in the software industry just as a whole, it's not usually the development team's fault. I mean, that's not a overall rule, but it's not always their fault. There's a corporate structure there that sort of usually overrides things like that. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I feel so bad for those developers. Like, they've just been like, how, like, literally, it's become the fact that there is literally a game industry term now known as a death march, where it is 80-hour weeks to put out these games for what will ultimately be uncaring consumers. It's like, people losing their actual minds over this stuff. It's just, and I feel terrible for the smaller people in CD Projekt Red, and I just know that they're, whatever corporate heads are just telling them to kind of like fix all this crap, and like they were probably hoping, okay, at least it's sort of done. It's like, nope, they are going to continue to work on this crap, like Hello Games with No Man's Sky, but with the difference of No Man's Sky being a relatively small, tighter knit like studio. This is a major company who are going to be getting their asses beaten into next year. So
yeah,
I feel terrible for them, and I wish them all the best.
We wish you the best.
Yeah,
put that out there.
It's just like, this year has taken a lot of things.
Well, do you want to be a bit more hopeful for a bit?
You know what? Yeah. If you have a particular point to go into, it's like I do in particular, I'll let you go ahead and go first for this, because I have kind of definitely a more like personal level hopefulness for this whole situation. So.
Oh no, you go ahead. I was gonna completely change everything. So you go ahead and get your point in.
Well, I mean, it was gonna be like more like just how this year has affected me personally. Just kind of like thinking back of the fact of, ultimately this year hasn't affected me nearly as much as it has affected other people, which I'm endlessly thankful for.
Yes.
Just like my job and my personal life, my romantic life has really only ever gotten better this year, honestly. I have a deeper connection with my girlfriend, and I'm completely on pace with her. Probably gonna be moving in properly together sometime, mid next year, ideally. But along with that, this has kind of been the year that reignited my creative drive, which and I'm sure I've mentioned it briefly on this show before, but I've dealt with bouts of depression and just kind of not necessarily imposter syndrome, but just kind of feelings of you know, not necessarily like pretty low self-worth. And a big outlet for that for me has been like to be able to kind of get over that is my creative pursuits. Obviously I mentioned I'm a draftsman and that sort of thing. Like I'm at an architectural firm that I work for, and that doesn't necessarily give me the chance to be that creative because it's mostly just doing like cut and paste like auto parts stores and everything. I will avoid necessarily saying the name of, but I'm sure I've mentioned it before, so I cannot remember. But that had tended to, like, early on in the year, that had kind of been draining me. But then as things kind of started getting weird and we need to go out less and less, I was able to kind of focus inward. And that's about when I started listening to the Magnus Archives. And I actually think that was one of the biggest kind of kickstarts to my creative drive coming back, because it opened my mind back up and my, you know, heart back up to just purely creative pursuits. Because honestly, I listened to Magnus Archives and I got it creeped the hell out of me. It was one of the few things that I've ever actually been genuinely unsettled by before. But beyond that, it also opened to the fact that these are among the most creative stories I've ever heard, and like it's a whole anthology of things, and it just really got my brain working again. It felt like. And after that, that's when this year I first started playing D&D for the first time. I was playing it with Hannah and her group because they needed a new member. One of them had left. And so that had gotten me into kind of like that stage. And then as that campaign wrapped up, I was able to start making my own. And that has been my current pursuit. And from there, I've also, I talked with you about your game, which is actually very similar to the game that I'm writing. Just because, not least of which is because a lot of it was actually inspired by the concept that you had told me about your game. But I'm really realizing now that this is one of the best places I've been personally for myself in a really, really long time. Just this whole year, I've, firmly been in my new place that I've been living for just the full year now. My job has been going great. I've been, moving up in my position there. I'm getting a raise actually here relatively soon. I got a really nice bonus for this year. And I just I'm thinking back on it. It's like, I don't know necessarily and obviously dealing with depression and those kind of thoughts that never really goes away, but this is definitely the most on top of it I've ever been in ever since I really started first having those sorts of thoughts. And it's honestly kind of shocking. Thinking back on it, it's not some grand revelatory thing. It's at the end of a coming of age drama, it's they toss some thing out into an ocean that represented their grief or that sort of thing. It's I'm really just I'm sitting here at my desk looking up at a cork board that has all my various notes and everything for the game that I'm writing. And, literally my girlfriend's actually just over here right now. She's just in the other room chilling out on her own laptop. And I'm just kind of sitting here, just kind of feeling very well accomplished. It's I'm actually very comfortable with where I am. It's not where I expected to be, but it's where I am, and I'm not a situation that I'm unhappy with. A lot of everything that I've gotten has been something I've chosen and something I've made happen. And so that's just kind of a nice thought, and just kind of weird to compare to the otherwise hellstrom that has been this year. But yeah, and I'm sure that's, way more deep than maybe necessarily you were expecting for me to say, but that had kind of been my biggest takeaway, because when I was leading up to the recording this episode that I was really thinking about, it was on a personal level, it's I can't necessarily say I have any future resolutions, but it's I certainly accomplished way more this year than I ever could have expected.
That's great.
So, yeah, so there's my soul out on the platter.
I wish I had any dig deep things to go, but I don't.
Yeah, sorry. I know I probably set the bar kind of high there. But yeah, it's just, just kind of the thoughts I was having.
Oh.
Yeah, you seem to be doing pretty well for yourself. You got your own house.
Yeah. I'm doing good. That's pretty much my only change this year.
Yeah. It's man, whenever I have changes, it's always leaps and bounds, and you're just kind of yeah, no, I've been doing pretty well straightforward.
Always aspire for more.
Yeah, fair. And I was definitely at a place for a long time where I was I wasn't expecting more. And it's it was kind of I've heard the joke before. It's rather than shoot for the moon and land amongst the stars. I have aimed for the parking lot and somehow ended up in space. And it's like, okay, yeah, no, that feels about accurate. I did not expect to be here like this. I moved out here to live closer to my girlfriend kind of on a whim, like, last October. And honestly was like shocked by the quality of the job I had gotten. And so like everything just kind of worked out shockingly well. And like, obviously a lot of it has been my own action to make it happen, but still it's weird to think about.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. So life's been interesting for Stuart. I've certainly cooked a lot more, which is nice because I've, been at home a lot.
Yeah. I should do that. I need to get actual materials for that, though.
Yeah, that might help. Like, do you mean like ingredients or like
no?
pots
I mean
and pans?
like I have like a pot and a pan.
Okay, I think like you and I need to like. I am going to come up there at some point here within the next like, ideally few months, depending on how horrible things are going. And I'm going to help you try to furnish that place out a little.
We'll go shopping. There's an IKEA near me.
Yeah, sure. Like, hell, that'll be fun. Like, we can talk about the game and everything.
Oh, it'll be a great trip.
Yeah. Like, this past February, we had Sonic. This time, we'll have IKEA.
Oh, maybe a movie will come out in February that we can see.
Hey, maybe.
Do you want to find out?
Sure. Yeah. Let's look at the upcomings.
Let's look at the upcomings. Do you have anything specific that is coming out next year that you're looking forward to? Because this year kind of fucked everything up, and I have no idea what's happening.
Honestly, like, I know Dune is coming out eventually, I think.
It's coming out in fall, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe October?
I know that, like, at the end of this most recent season of The Mandalorian, they teased that there's going to be a Boba Fett show of some variety at the end of the year. That one I'm honestly just kind of interested in because mostly like A, I like that character, and B, I like the actor that portrays him. Other than that, not that I can really think of. I know a bunch of Marvel crap's going to come out, and I'm going to soundly ignore it.
I haven't seen anything on this list for Marvel stuff for next year.
Well, I'll be damned.
Strangely enough, maybe they're under like weird names, and I just don't recognize them because they're like a character that appeared in Ultimate Spider-Man in the background for 2 scenes. So,
right.
What the fuck is this? There is... Oh my god. Well, oh my god. Speaking of horror reboots, since we talked about it last year, Wrong Turn is getting rebooted. In January? That's a weird time to release a horror movie.
I don't even know what that is.
Wrong Turn is a franchise about just literally inbred hicks in the wood, like inbred so that they have defects, like missing fingers and stuff, and they kill city people that come into their territory. That's it. That's all it is. But
gotcha. Also, I gotta say, I just Googled 2021 upcoming movies, and so far it is not looking too bright to me. It is not looking amazing thus far. If you have any other major ones you wanted to say, I am probably just going to go through a list of ones that just make me not hopeful.
All I'm going to say is, so there are a couple here listed. I'm on Wikipedia, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just on Google. It just has a bunch of listed.
There are like 7 films here listed for January of next year. 3 of them, Wrong Turn, Shadow in the Cloud, and The Devil's Light, are listed as horror movies. Why are there so many horror movies coming out in January?
I think maybe because a bunch of them were meant to come out this past October, and now they're trying to get them out when they can.
That's actually a good point.
I honestly think that might be the reason.
Go ahead then, with the things you have.
Yes. Well, first on the list, Matrix 4 is apparently coming out next year.
Yes, near the end of the year.
God, please kill me. Let's see. There's apparently already going to be another. Yeah, Mission Impossible 7's coming out, which is like, all right, fine.
Yeah,
like, I really don't
stuff for that. Yeah.
Which, like, I'm fine with it, but at the same time, it's like, why? that one weird Marvel movie trailer that had come out a while ago called Morbius, where it's like Jared Leto playing like a vampire dude. That's coming out apparently.
I don't know what that is.
It's like I honestly don't know.
But it's also it's also Marvel, so do I care?
Right, exactly. That's the big point. Let's see. Venom 2 coming out apparently, which actually I'm kind of that one I'd be fine with. I just like Venom as a character. Let's see. Is apparently going to be a Maleficent style movie about Cruella de Vil. From the 101 Dalmatians, which I don't know why. I don't know, like Cruella, like at least with Maleficent, I should say, there's like some creative liberty to make them an interesting character, but Cruella de Vil is literally just about killing puppies and turning them into coats. Like, I don't know how you're going to make like a respectable character out of that. Let's see. Oh yeah, the sequel to Coming to America called Coming to America.
Oh
with
yeah,
the number 2.
Arsenio Hall is coming back.
Yep. Let's see. Another Hotel Transylvania.
Wait, what? Is there seriously a fourth Hotel Transylvania?
There's, yeah, according to this, yes. Let's
Shit.
see.
Oh my god.
The Uncharted movie is apparently going to come out next year with
yeah.
The one guy who's playing the new Spider-Man.
Yeah, Tom Holland. I did see that. Yeah.
Which is like weird that it was a pretty young choice for Nathan Drake, if I'm honest. But, whatever. I think the games are pretty cool, but...
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We know what they did to Lara Croft, so we'll see what they do to Uncharted.
True. Let's see. Another Marvel movie called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I know nothing about that one, but again, it's Marvel, so who gives a damn?
So see, I was right. All of these movies, like Morbius and Shang-Chi, these show up on my wiki page, but I didn't know they were Marvel movies because they're based on dumb shit characters that nobody knows about.
Yep. There's a couple other interesting ones that like I don't really recognize, but seem interesting on their own. But I am going to move past them to the other ones that I just don't like. Let's see, the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, which is like everyone is going on about. It's like, man, Justice League just sucks. Like, just let's move on.
I don't know if this is a hot take or not. Zack Snyder kind of sucks.
He does.
I don't like a lot of his shit.
Okay, apparently, so there's supposedly going to be a Mortal Kombat movie.
Ooh, they remade it on Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Let's see. There's going to be another Purge movie. Like, honestly, have we not moved past that?
That's a horror franchise, so a horror thriller. So,
another one for us. Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh, that's next year?
Apparently.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God, there's going to be another Fast and Furious. Okay.
There will always be another Fast and Furious.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, for some reason I thought that had already come out, but the other Minions movie, like The Rise of Gru, like how they meet Gru.
Oh, yeah. I saw a trailer for that, like, last year. I guess it was supposed to come out this year, and it got delayed, probably.
Yep. Another Boss Baby, which, like, kill me. One that I'm actually excited for that is kind of like based off like popular modern culture and everything. Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Oh yeah, we talked about that last year.
Yeah. That one's apparently coming out.
Okay.
The Jungle Cruise movie, of course. Let's see. Oh yeah, the James Bond movie whose name I still think is one of the worst titles I've ever heard. No Time to Die.
Is that the one that's using the Love Boat font? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see, that's another Tom Holland one that I don't recognize. Oh yeah, the Black Widow movie is coming out. Oh God, fucking. Seeing this one, this honestly might be the one that's the biggest like nail in the coffin for like nostalgia as like anything other than just like being pure garbage at this point. There's the Space Jam sequel.
Oh yeah, coming out in July.
I just like I can't like I unironically just think it's just no.
Dude, I saw a bunch of people online bad mouthing the trailer, and I joined in the comments, and I was like, yeah, this looks awful. And people started replying to me and being like, yeah, there's no way it can be any better than the original. And I was like, yeah, that's true. It can. The best we can hope for is that it's like equal quality, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Are you kidding me? How could it even top the masterpiece that is the original Space Jam?" And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?
Are y'all out of your minds? Jesus.
Are there
what?
people out here that like still unironically like Space Jam? It's a bad movie
Yeah, that's weird.
with unfunny Looney Tunes, which is like one of the worst sins you can possibly commit.
Yeah. Let's see. Another one for the obviously Dune. But then another one for the remix is Top Gun Maverick.
Oh yeah.
Then an interesting one. I've forgotten that this was coming out. A remake of Candyman.
Oh yeah, we talked about that in our Leprechaun episode too. You said it was supposed to be an all-black cast, right?
It looked like it, like at least predominantly black cast.
Okay.
But yeah, that one actually I'll be pretty interested in. Mostly because I haven't seen the original, and I want to have an excuse for it.
Well, that's a good possibility for an episode. It's been long enough.
Yes. Let's see. The next like the possible finale to the Halloween movies, the Halloween Kills.
Oh yeah. That's the one with Jamie Lee, I think.
Yes. Supposedly the Godzilla versus King Kong movie. I will believe that when I see it. Oh, and friggin' West Side Story is getting a remake.
Oh yeah, with Spielberg at the helm.
Which is, honestly, who knows?
Who else can remake a movie that won Best Picture at the Oscars?
Fair. But otherwise, I believe that is it for major ones that either make me lose hope or are remakes or both. Which, in the case of Space Jam, because oh god, we're gonna have to do Space Jam. Fuck.
I'm kind of excited to do Space Jam just to talk about what a nightmare it is.
Like, that is going to be a rare situation where it's going to be like, we are going to be on equally bad footing on both, it feels like. Because it's like, once you're at a certain point of badness, of just like unironic, just like, it just kind of all bleeds together. There's also apparently some movie called Snake Eyes, which that seems like that seems like something that would be a remake, but I can't be sure.
Isn't that I think Snake Eyes is supposed to be in the G.I. Joe series, isn't it?
Oh my god, that is correct. Yeah, I clicked on it. I was like, yeah, that's the G.I. Joe dude.
Yeah.
I'll be damned.
The franchise that everyone forgot about. Everyone remembered it, but everyone forgot they tried to make a film franchise out of it.
Yeah. It's like the first one of that movie wasn't even good. So I don't know what they were thinking.
There are a couple here that I want to go through. Just
go right ahead.
Did you see any of the promotional images for the Clifford the Big Red Dog movie that's coming out in November?
Yeah.
Where it just looks like a dog that they painted red. It's like,
I mean, with kind of the kind of uncanny valley. I saw there was a brief animated snippet for an ad, but it's just the uncanny valley is so hard on this one.
It's so stupid. And here's the thing, it would probably be a bad movie regardless, but I don't know, take a hint from the Tom and Jerry movie that's going to be coming out, which will probably be equally as shitty, but at least they look like Tom and Jerry. They didn't just do a photorealistic cat and mouse in CGI. They look like the characters.
Yeah, which is really the only way you can do them.
Exactly. And I will say that movie, that Tom and Jerry movie is also coming out next year, and it's probably going to be awful, but I unironically like in the trailer, there's just 15 to 20 seconds of that, near the end of the trailer after all of the plot is fleshed out, where it's just Tom and Jerry smacking each other with shit, and I'm like, well, that's all I care about.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main failing of every single time they try to do a Tom and Jerry movie. It's you guys don't remember, this whole show was famous and super popular just because it was small snippets in silly situations of these guys beating the crap out of each other. There was an episode where they just were inexplicably in the middle of the French Revolution or something. It's okay, they don't have an explanation for it. They're just there, but it just gives them more excuses to work with different ways of beating each other up.
Yeah.
And then ends with the very dark moment of the implication that Tom was guillotined. Which is wow. Okay.
What a great short. And
yeah,
that's going to be in February. Maybe
anymore.
that'll be our February movie, Tom and Jerry.
That'll be a downgrade or an upgrade. Who knows? It might be the sleeper hit.
It could surprise us.
It certainly won't have the drama of like the hellish like main character redesign.
That's true. There's
Sonic
a lot
had.
of baggage going in.
Yeah. God, every time I think back on the Sonic movie, I kind of think back on it with more fondness because I think back on it, it's like, wow, it was like I actually really, really unironically liked it.
It's bringing tears to my eyes.
Yeah, it was like thinking back on it, it's just like the character that they made of Sonic is like they really did just make him this ADHD idiot, and I'm just like, okay, no, I'm fine with this. This is hilarious.
Oh, what else is here? Cinderella. There's going to be another Cinderella movie. This one's not going to be Disney though. Musical romantic comedy.
You know what?
Okay.
You know what? I'm actually more okay with that concept that it's not Disney.
Yeah.
I would like to see that happen.
I'm fine with that.
How that come out? Because like it's an original fairy tale. So.
The King's Man, which we talked about last year because it was supposed to come out this year.
Yep, that one I am excited for. Well, okay, within reason, obviously.
Oh, what the hell? The Bob's Burgers movie is supposed to be in April of next year. That is way sooner than I thought that was happening.
I haven't seen any trailers for it. That's weird.
I have not either. Odd. All right, yeah, Quiet Place Part 2. There's going to be another Conjuring, because why not? There's always another Conjuring. Oh yeah, the Suicide Squad. I forgot about that.
Oh, God.
There's going to be
although it's...
Go on.
You go ahead. You were about to say something.
No, go on. I got to recompose myself.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I'm slightly more excited for Suicide Squad, mostly because it's James Gunn doing it, which is like, okay, he's a good director with this sort of stuff.
That's
but
fair.
Otherwise, it's like, okay, the moment you add John Cena as one of the characters, I'm like, okay, well, this could go either way. But yes, what did you have to compose yourself for?
August 20th, we are going to see a theatrical Paw Patrol movie.
You know what? I kind of just want to blaze right past that one. I have nothing I could conceivably say about that.
Okay.
Yeah. The less I talk about it, the better.
There's supposed to be another Jackass movie in September, which I actually did see news about recently because Steve-O and what's his name?
Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah, Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O injured themselves doing a stunt filming for it, and they're in the hospital right now. Something about a moving treadmill. They jumped on a moving treadmill while they were holding like band instruments like tubas and shit. I don't know.
How are these dudes still alive? Like, honestly,
I don't know.
I hear some of the stories of like some of the injuries they sustained. I'm like, they are honestly some of the most like gut wrenching injuries I've ever heard in some cases. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I really just at this point I'm just like, I think these guys just need to retire to like a really peaceful lake in like Japan. Like they don't deserve to go through this crap anymore. They need to stop.
I remember there was a period of time actually where Steve-O had a show on TV called Killer Karaoke that we used to tape on the DVR and watch recordings of. And it was funny because Steve-O, all these stunts were happening around him and he didn't have to participate. He got to laugh at people. But it was like a game show where there would be two contestants that had to do karaoke while they were being like tortured. So like there was this one woman that had to sing like a Pat Benatar song and she was blindfolded walking through a maze of cacti. And just, she'd get pricked and then Steve-O's like, so.
I don't understand TV or entertainment. I'm going to go full disclosure on this one. Audience, I don't understand anything about modern media. And this entire show has been a pure farce, pretending I do. I cannot. Every time I hear something like this, I'm like, I don't think we as a species deserve to continue to survive. But at the same time, all my stuff is here. And I don't want to stop necessarily. I've long since moved. I've tried to move past those thoughts, and just hearing this sort of stuff makes that very hard. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you, Jake. I'll let you continue.
Also,
I just needed that aside.
Just keep in mind that Killer Karaoke was like over a decade ago too. So
I mean, like,
we've been here a while.
I mean, yeah, but still, like, you know, it's yeah, that's yeah. I could go on. I honestly don't want to.
All right, I only have 2 more left, and then we can start getting into a different sort of fun and
sure.
talk about the obituaries. But there's 2 left that I want to just bring up, and they're both sequels to films that I don't think did that well, so I don't know why they got sequels. But we're supposed to get a second animated Addams Family movie in October.
Okay.
Which I'm pretty sure that film underperformed, so strange, but I mean, all right.
Considering I didn't see a single thing about it at all after it came out, I was convinced that thing bombed.
It might have. I didn't either, and I certainly haven't seen it yet. But also we're supposed to be getting a second Sing movie, which I'm pretty sure that film also underperformed, especially by Illumination standards. That has like the Secret Life of Pets franchise and Despicable Me and Minions running all over the place.
I mean, like, that's a pretty high bar for underperforming, though. If we're honest.
It is. Though I guess those make a lot of money. I didn't hear anyone say anything good about that movie either.
It was pretty bland. Like, you know, it's like any movie that like tries to tout itself up as like a musical, but it's using like pre-existing songs and everything, with the possible exception of Mamma Mia, which I unironically think is adorable, and you can fucking fight me if you say otherwise. But like all the ones that kind of tout themselves up like as a musical, and it's all just pre-existing songs. It just has this weird air to it of like not quite try hard, but like it's somewhere in that range where it's like it's somehow both like trying too hard and weirdly kind of boring. So it's like, I know it's like hard to write your own songs and everything, but like this is also like a unique form of lazy.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I've never really been a huge fan of it. Again, other than, you know, Mamma Mia, because it's just like it's pure ABBA and it's people dancing and having fun on a Greek island, which is like, you know what? It's just nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to just unironically find it fun.
No, that's fine. I won't fight you on it. I personally don't care much for the movie.
Oh yeah, no, I don't mean you. I mean like listeners.
Yeah. I haven't seen the musical. I don't care much for the movie, but I love ABBA. I have their greatest hits CD, and we used to listen to it in the car all the time, and I still listen to it every now and then. So I like the music.
Yeah, it's lovely. You know? Yeah, it's just you get to watch like, you know, Colin Firth, you know, kind of hang out and be gay on an island.
That's the. That's all the movie's about. What's a wedding?
Yeah. Was he the gay character? He might not have been the gay character. I don't know. It's been a minute.
I don't remember. It's been even longer for me.
It's like, and like one of the other guys is like one of the Bonds. It's like Pierce Brosnan, I think. Yeah, Pierce Brosnan. Mm-hmm. And then the one, like Swiss, not Swiss, like Swedish guy. I think something Skarsgård. Not the guy in like It.
Yeah.
But, like his dad.
Alexander. Yeah, not Bill or. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, fun movie. I don't know what I was talking about originally. I've completely lost the plot.
We were talking about Sing and fuck Sing.
That was it. Thank you. My head's all over the place.
But you actually gave us the perfect segue, bringing up Bond.
Oh yeah. Into
the obits, because we have 2 actually. So we're gonna start talking about the dead now, and we'll be as respectful as possible. It's a bit weirder this year because there is the virus that's going around, so this isn't like a segment to make fun of people. It's just some notable people that passed on, and if we have anything to say, then we'll sort of do it. So
yeah,
just keep that in mind.
Yeah, we'll be pretty somber throughout this though.
Yeah, this isn't the COVID-19 laugh party. That's not what this is.
Yeah, no, we'll do that next year.
Yeah.
Once we've gotten tired of all this, we'll just be like, screw it.
But firstly, I want to bring up Diana Rigg, who passed. She had roles like Lady Holiday in The Great Muppet Caper, which is a film I watched earlier this year, which is what first gave me note. She was on Game of Thrones as, I don't know any of these characters or how to pronounce their names, but she was on Game of Thrones as Olenna Tyrell. Tyrell?
Oh, yeah, Lady Tyrell.
Lady Tyrell, there you go.
Yeah.
But she was married to... She played a dame, or a lady, or a duchess, or something of that form, that was married to James Bond in the film On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which I believe is the only official James Bond film. Like, it's the only one considered a part of the series that wasn't produced by, what is the studio? Paramount? Or...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I don't remember who was Bond in that one. Roger Moore? Or Mike?
I think it was Moore.
It was a one-time Bond. Yes, so that is Diana Rigg. She passed this year. And also, of course, on the same Bond train, of a bit more note for various reasons, was Sean Connery, who passed.
Yes, very sad.
Yes, he was Bond for a number of years. The original official Bond, I will say. And he was, of course, in other projects. He was Indy's dad in Indiana Jones. He was what am I thinking of? That film I kind of unironically like, Darby O'Gill and the Little People, which is a Disney live action Disney film, and he sings in it.
Yeah, that was silly.
Yeah, so
he was that one cop in The Untouchables.
Oh yes, wasn't he in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen too?
Yes, he was.
Who did he play?
He was like the main center character. I can't remember his name. He's like the one who actually isn't that interesting compared to everyone else.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I don't remember who he played.
Yeah, it's like when the side characters are Dr. Jekyll, Captain Nemo, and a vampirus.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, he's just a dude. And the Invisible Man. I forgot about that guy.
Sean, yeah. You I was saying Sean Connery, and then you said Invisible Man, and I started thinking of Claude Rains, so you made me say Shad Crane. Shad Crane?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who? What?
Yes, but yes, Sean Connery.
Yes, Sean Connery. He be missed. David Prowse passed. Who was essentially, he was Darth Vader, except not James Earl Jones. He was the other half of Darth Vader. He was in the...
He actually played him.
That is the man himself. He passed. One of the more recent ones was Alex Trebek, who passed away.
Yeah, that one made me genuinely sad.
Yeah, host of Jeopardy. That one was kind of strange because I only know this because of a Discord group that I'm in. But when he passed, the official Simpsons Twitter account posted what on the surface was a pretty sweet, like, "We'll miss you, Alex," and it was a shot from an episode. I think it was one of their Christmas episodes in like season 9 or 10, where Marge goes on Jeopardy to try and win money for Christmas. And it's just a shot of the soundstage with Marge behind one of the booths, and like it's zoomed out, so it's a small Alex Trebek, but you can sort of tell it's him. And it was like, "We'll miss you, Alex." But when you zoom into the image, the entire like cell of Alex Trebek, the character model in the animation cell, is from the original episode, but they had someone update his face in the new Simpsons style, so it stands out from everything else in the image. And then what's even stranger, if you zoom in really close, you can see the hair on his head from the original image behind the new head. So they didn't even like Photoshop that out. It's like a new head pasted on top of the image. And it's very bizarre to look at.
What the fuck?
I don't know who made that decision.
I just like... Only this year, I feel like, could this kind of thing like come out. Like, this feels like in any other year, if this came out, someone wouldn't notice for like years. But because we're all so like on edge with everything, someone immediately noticed that. I guarantee.
Yeah, and
Like,
then they immediately shared it on the Discord.
yeah, that's so weird. I feel so sorry for that.
I feel sorry for the unpaid intern that they made do that too.
Yeah, there's a few levels.
Another one that passed. It's not fun. Obviously, none of these are funny, but
Right.
it's funny in a way, just because this is a man who, even in college, I remember discussing him, and he's somebody that I guess kind of like Abe Vigoda, where I thought he died already,
Yeah,
and I brought
I
it
think
up
I know
like,
who you're talking about.
yeah, I brought it up like 3 or 4 times, and people would be like, "No, he's not dead, or he has not passed away yet." And that's Wilford Brimley,
Yep.
diabetes himself, uh,
Uh, I feel bad for laughing.
the face of Quaker Oats, and I mean, he did other things here and there. He's sort of related to the podcast in a way, because we found out very early in the show that he sort of made his film debut in 1969's True Grit as like an extra.
Mm.
But he was sort of the face of Quaker Oats and did those Quaker Oats commercials for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yes, and he passed away this year.
Very sad.
Yes. Next, we have Grant Imahara. Do you have much relation to? I know who he is.
Yeah,
I
that
sort
one.
of watched Mythbusters, but I wasn't big into it, so it didn't affect me as much as I feel it did affect a lot of other people I saw on the internet.
Yeah, that one did affect me a bit more. I was definitely a huge fan of MythBusters, and I actually really liked the whole like side team that Grant and the other two actors or technicians were part of. And I hate myself that I can't remember the other one's names.
Tori
but that one did,
and someone else.
yeah, Tori and I honestly can't remember now.
All right.
But that one honestly did kind of come as a shock because like I can't say he was like one of my favorites on the group, but he was definitely one of the cooler. He was definitely like kind of the cool head of the one. Like I think he was actually like a award-winning like robotics designer. Like for like I say robotics, I mean like battle bots. But I had seen him in like another show that they had that little trio actually made briefly afterwards called White Rabbit, where they touched on some. It was kind of meant to be a spiritual successor to MythBusters, but it was a bit more modernized. But it didn't really end up going that far. So it was kind of interesting seeing because he was kind of the unofficial lead of that, just kind of like on a technical level. And so seeing that he had died so young, I was honestly kind of shocked.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big sad one because it was just like, it's weird whenever something that was so definitive from your childhood somehow like all of a sudden, mortality kind of gets involved with it. Where it's like that was like I said before, the big one for me was Robin Williams. That kind of like first initiated that thought. Like as I'm getting older, it's like I'm gonna start seeing this happen. I'm gonna see things that were part of my childhood or as part of a significant part of my own personal culture are gonna just start to die, like just literally. And that one was a weird one for me with Grant. Just because it's weird seeing someone that's not a comedy figure. It's really someone who actually was one of the main cornerstones of making me such a curious person, of me just like liking those sorts of things. And he just kind of was just like gone. It was honestly kind of just a punch to the gut.
Yeah.
So it's like that one was an interesting one for me, to say the least.
I get that. And I guess, I mean, sort of going off of, he was pretty young. We also lost Chadwick Boseman this year as well.
Yep.
At a fairly young age.
I believe it was some form of cancer, I believe.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and they were keeping it under wraps for like he was filming Marvel movies with cancer. Like, my God.
Yeah.
Honestly, fuck those movies for making people do that.
I don't. Well, if he was keeping it, do you think that any of them knew?
I'm sure they probably did. I mean, like, they have to have basic medical checkups to be able to do the sort of shit they were required to.
That's fair. I always wonder how much goes into stuff like that, just because not everyone does their own stunts, and the more and more we get into green screen technology and robotics, like the less people have to do, so I wonder.
Yeah, so That one was interesting, and I'm sure Marvel has to like go in depth with like like their health and everything. But like they probably weighed the pros and cons. It's like you're already an established character, gotta make you do it.
Yeah. And
So
that's going to be interesting for their properties. I don't know. Well, I guess they already finished off their Infinity War, which was their big build-up. So
yeah,
anything after that point, I guess they probably don't care.
yeah, I'm sure they'll have someone else kind of try to take up the character, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised. At this, like again, it's one of those moments where it's like I feel bad that I don't care, but I truly do not care.
Yeah.
It's like it's so past me at this point.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's less for him and more so just, the Marvel, Disney, whatever. So,
Yeah.
no, I feel that, yeah. I'm in the exact same spot.
But yeah, anyone else on the surprisingly long list?
Yeah, actually. Funny. There's a couple there's a couple that'll probably just be touched on briefly. Olivia de Havilland is someone whose career I'm not as familiar with, but I know the name. Definitely. She was in things like Gone with the Wind. She played Maid Marian in the original Robin Hood with Errol Flynn, the swashbuckler himself. So we lost her. John Saxon, big in like horror movies. He was in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. He was in New Nightmare as himself, as most people played themselves in New Nightmare. Enter the Dragon, Black Christmas. So yeah, we lost Mr. Saxon.
That one was a rough one.
Yeah, and Max von Sydow, which was interesting. He was in Seventh Seal, Minority Report. He was Ming the Merciless in Flash Gordon.
Of course.
Yes. Many
the
familiar.
classics.
Many are familiar with him, at least in passing.
Yes.
Some more big ones. Kirk Douglas we lost.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was an interesting one.
Many consider to be sort of a titan. I remember still, like, either the first or second episode of this podcast we did, back in the basement of the house you were staying at.
Yeah.
We had the Oscars had just come out, and we were sort of talking about it, and I was like, Kirk Douglas is so ancient and so old, and he does not look to be in good health. So I don't know why they were like wheeling him up onto that stage. It's one of those things where it was like everyone's appreciating him for his career, but it's also like, don't put him through that. Could he be on like a video feed or something? He didn't look like they should have put him up there, because I don't know if he was able to handle it. But also, this is me speaking as someone who did not know the man, did not know how his last couple of years were. And it may have been his idea. I know that Rob Paulson, the voice actor, did a podcast for a while called Talking Tunes, and he had June Foray on, and she was like 98. And he was like, oh, you want to be on my show? And she's like, sure. And then like a day later, she called him and was like, I hear you do live shows. And he's like, don't worry, I don't expect you to get up on stage. She's like, no, I want to do the live show. And she's like 98 years old. So it could have been his idea. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what that situation was. So I shouldn't speak too much on it.
Yeah. Well, gotta rest him now.
Yes.
Or whatever, rest him now. Whichever you prefer.
Whatever is in your heart.
Yes.
Orson Bean passed. Now, this is a strange one. Now, he's been in a lot of stuff. He was a recurring character on, like, Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. He was in Being John Malkovich and Inner Space. He voiced Bilbo Baggins in the Rankin Bass Hobbit film from, like, 1977 or 78.
Yeah. Holy shit. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's Orson Bean in that role. But it's strange because from what I found, I didn't write down the cause of death for a lot of these people, but from what I found, he was 91. He died because he was hit by a car.
Jesus.
That's very strange to me. You don't, I mean, people get hit by cars all the time, but it's just like, I don't know, this famous actor in his 90s. How did he get hit by, was he in the middle of the road? I don't know if I want to find out the answer to this, but that just struck me as strange.
Yeah. I feel like the less we know about that one, the better.
Probably. So this one took me by surprise because I never heard anything about it. Kelly Preston passed away. Did you hear that?
The name does not ring a bell.
She was John Travolta's wife, but she was in things like Jerry Maguire, Battlefield Earth. She played the mom in Mike Myers' The Cat in the Hat movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So she passed on this year.
Huh. That's really sad.
Yes, it is.
I honestly, and it's sad that the most recognizable thing I have of her is the Cat in the Hat movie. That's
That's
sad.
very sad. It's better to recognize her for that, I think, than Battlefield Earth. And probably the only reason she was in Battlefield Earth is because she was married to Travolta, who was like starring in it. So,
Well, yes. So sad.
Here's another interesting one. Ian Holm. I don't have a lot of credits for him, but he was Bilbo in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Ring films.
Oh, yeah.
Old Bilbo Baggins. And he was the voice of Skinner in Ratatouille.
Oh my god, I forgot he was.
Yeah, and he also passed.
Wow. It's really sad.
Yes.
God, this year sucks.
And then just a couple more. These are a bit more fat. Well, actually, one, certainly. I don't know how much he meant to you, but Jerry Stiller passed away, who was Ben Stiller's father. Great comedian. He's been in a ton of stuff and like on TV. I primarily know him for his voice work. Because sort of like David Ogden Stiers, he had a later career in his life where he had such a recognizable voice that he just got cast in a lot of cartoons. But probably up to this point, his most famous role is that he was George Costanza's father on Seinfeld.
I mean, I wouldn't know that personally, but yeah, I gotcha.
That's fine.
Like I just didn't watch that show. That's all.
No, that's fine. But yes, he also passed away. And then Regis Philbin died.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't know how to feel about that one. I knew he existed.
Yeah. I mean, I watched Millionaire. I never watched any of his other stuff really. Regis and Kathy Lee, Regis and Kelly. I never really watched those morning shows.
Yeah.
But I watched when he hosted Millionaire. And I remember when he was when they gave it to Meredith Vieira because he moved on, and I was like, oh, but I liked Regis. And then I watched him where I was like, oh, I like Meredith. So that it didn't really matter. Back when I actually watched stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we all had those phases. Mine was Mythbusters.
the famous Who Wants to Be a Mythbuster show.
Okay, now there's a show, like, write that one down.
Ooh, could be interesting.
Which I feel like that's just approaching Jackass again, actually.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, okay, don't write it down.
I'm erasing it now.
Okay.
So, sports, I'm not that into sports, obviously. I've brought that up before, so a lot of sports figures that passed I don't really know. But I did write down Kobe Bryant just because it was such a big thing when it happened.
Yeah.
Just
that one I obviously will not make jokes about since that one was so significant.
Yeah, that was very significant and very tragic. It was like, I don't know. Yeah.
It's like, oh boy, honestly, my heart goes out to his family. So
no, definitely. Yeah, that's just sort of a thing in there. And then I got four more names left here.
Jesus, it was a lethal year.
James Lipton passed away. I don't know if he ever did any like movie work, but he was the host of Inside the Actors Studio for forever.
Oh yeah.
And I used to tape that off of TV all the time, and I would watch episodes. Back when I cared way too, and I still kind of do, but when I cared way too much about actors and what they thought about things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I always thought it was interesting. And Gilbert Gottfried had a bit about this on his podcast years ago, where he would find it hilarious because he would watch an episode of Inside the Actors Studio with James Lipton and expect there to be like thought-provoking questions. And James Lipton would turn to the guest and be like, "What's your favorite sound?" And it's like, okay, that's not a question I would have expected.
like, okie dokie. Like, why?
And apparently one of the responses he heard to that question once was a baby smiling, which tickles me.
I think my brain just did something. I don't know what. I can't imagine it was good. Oh my god. Anyway, moving on to the other. Let's go back on to sad things before my eye starts to bleed.
Buck Henry passed away. He did some acting work, but I took interest primarily because he was a writer, and he wrote Get Smart, Catch-22, and The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman.
Damn.
He was a writer for all of those films. Fred Willard passed away. Great comedian. Tons of TV work. Plenty of people know his voice. He was another one of those comedians that always got cast in cartoons. He was the boogeyman on Billy and Mandy, which I most remember him for.
Yeah, I've almost forgot about that.
Yeah, but he did other things too. Great comedian. He passed away. And finally, I put down this one just because it happened so recently, like within the past 2 weeks, I think. And that's David L. Lander passed away. Actually, my mother texted me the day that she read that he had passed, and I had completely missed it. He played a character called Squiggy on the show Laverne and Shirley in the 70s.
Okay.
And, he just did TV work here and there. He appeared on The Simpsons as himself playing Squiggy, which was strange. But what I and many people now know David L. Lander for is ever since, I think, the Garfield Christmas special in 1988, David was the voice of John Arbuckle's country brother Doc Boy. And he voiced him in every series and animated special up into, like, the French-Canadian CGI series of the early 2010s. He was still doing Doc Boy in that series, too.
Okay. That's weirdly specific.
Yeah, I don't know how much that means to you specifically.
I mean, like, just the fact of having heard it, it means a lot more to me now. I mean, otherwise, not a whole lot.
Just knowing he was John's brother, Doc Boy. But,
yeah, I've learned so much in that last, 3 sentences.
Just, it means a bit more to me. Not like I was obsessed with Garfield, but Doc Boy was like a weird character to me. I always thought he was kind of strange. And it was funny in a way. And I don't know if you remember this, but there were a period of 4 months in college where on our group chat, I actually had changed my name in the group chat to Doc Boy, and my profile picture was a picture of Doc Boy from the Garfield Christmas special.
Oh my god, is that what that was about?
Yes, and I had that for 4 months, so...
Good. I stopped guessing why your names are the way they are, and this is the first explanation I've gotten in months.
Yes. That's who that character was, and his voice actor for 3.5 decades just passed away December 4th. I just looked it up. So,
well, I'm very sorry.
Yes, he has now left us as well. But that's sort of the end of the morbid obituary segment that I have.
Whew, Lordy. I mean, I think I don't even know where to follow up from that. I guess, we tend to kind of go into resolutions, but,
yeah.
What could we possibly say at this point, honestly? I mean, I'm sure you might have something, but honestly, I'm kind of eh.
I mean, the best we can hope going forward is just, have better years, always hope for the best. I'm not going to hype up 2021 like it's going to be some big year. Last year was a little bit different because we were going into a new decade, and it was funny to think of the thought of the roaring 20s, the new roaring 20s. But we see how that turned out.
I will say, though, I saw someone make a post online that made a lot of sense. That after the 1918 Spanish influenza outbreak, it makes a lot of sense that throughout the entirety of the 20s, people were getting really dressed up and dolled up to go out basically anywhere. So that's going to make some sense. Once this starts to kind of tide over, I feel like we're going to be getting that roaring 20s.
I hope that's the case. We'll all be dancing in the streets and bootlegging beer. It'll be great.
I mean, like, I'm honestly like not like that. I'm not going to make any assumptions. I'm not going to make any goddamn assumptions because I attempted to do that last time. I will assume nothing. By the end of next year, it could be a hellscape. By the end of next year, it could be utopia. It could be anything in between.
Maybe it'll be Zootopia.
Jesus Christ. The furries have taken over the world. I always knew this day would come. But I think ultimately, I think that by this time next year, it will be the same result of what we have now of it was not what I expected, and it's somehow still exceedingly, in a lot of ways, exceedingly boring. Like, the worst part about the crazy future is that how many moments of it were just plain dull. And it's just like, I'm doing laundry while, one of the most significant cultural, historical events of the, new millennia of the current 2000s is happening around me. It's like, feels kind of weird. Like, it's truly, like, I'm sure I've used it on this show a billion times by now. It's like, and I honestly, or maybe I haven't, I don't know. I've said this phrase a lot this year, but it makes sense. It's an old Roman curse stating, "May you live in interesting times." Yeah, and yes. My God, do we live in interesting times?
I've certainly heard that before, and it may have been from you even.
Probably, honestly. But yeah, that's the most resolution I can say is I hope to continue with my creative streak I've got going right now. I'd like to be a bit healthier in general. But otherwise, I think the trend that I've got going so far is pretty good. I think my relationship with my girlfriend is only getting better, and I hope to potentially progress that a bit further this next year. Between moving it together and possibly the next step, but I won't, spoil anything. But yeah, I think otherwise, I'm not going to make any grand assumptions because my greatest skill in life I found, especially this year, is my ability to roll with the punches. So let's go. Let's bring on the punches, and hopefully I'll make something cool along the way. Hopefully, one of the main ones is, I'd like to, continue helping you with the creation of your game, like writing for it and, whatever that might progress. And hey, if in the future this is, people are looking back, combing our library of works, if this game has come out and it's like, hi, fellow people from the future, for, looking back after being fans of insert game title here.
From 2032?
Yeah. And it's like where it all began, with these two jackasses talking about the way the world was. Oh, Lord. God. Like, that's honestly kind of terrifying in a way that someone might be going back through my entire, discography, essentially.
And now you know the rest of the story. Good day.
But, yeah, that's pretty much mine. You got anything?
I actually do. These past couple years, I've been sort of, years for the podcast, I've had resolutions that are very listicle based, sort of like for an achievable goal in my mind. And I'm still going to keep doing those lists because I like having them. But the pressure of having a year deadline and putting them on the show really got to me when I just watched 15 Disney movies in a week because I wanted to say on the show that I had finished it.
Yes.
So I'm going to keep doing that, but I don't want to make anything major general like that anymore. I kind of have two resolutions, and one of them is to keep being creative on my game and keep doing progress, because I go through weird spurts where I'll do it for like a month and a half or two, and then I'll hate a design that I did, and I'll be like, but if I change it, that's going to change a lot of the game, and then I don't work on it for months at a time. So I want to be more consistent with that.
See, now you can just toss it towards me and I can comment on it, and then I'll let you take a break from it.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Exactly. You gotta dump it on me. I'm fine with that.
But just as a more general rule, I want to do that. And I do have a resolution for the show. I'm going to keep making these lists. I may even reveal them on the show, but I'm not going to add them as a resolution. But as far as things go for next year, I want to, because I had some dead spots this year, I want to have at least one new movie, I don't mean new as in just came out, but new as in I've never seen it before, that I can talk about in the what I've watched every episode. During the breaks between episodes, I want to have at least one new thing that I've watched that I can discuss. And I don't think that's a lofty goal. or anything.
But yeah, no, that's respectable, and I should honestly probably try to do that for me too.
Yeah, if you want to, that's fine. Other than that, there's absolutely no pressure on anything like that because we always find things to talk about. Is this 3 hour? My recording nearly reaches 3 hours now.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, my throat is killing me. Oh God, this is why we do the 1 hour ones.
Yeah, it's generally an hour and a half episode, but the end of year ones, they're always this long. They're always 2.5 to 3 hours. You know what we get into.
Yeah, when we ramble, we fucking ramble.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, no,
but yeah, those are my resolutions, and I hope that next year is much kinder. But same as you, I will not make any assumptions that it will be.
Yes, as always, we will roll with the punches. As always, we will do what we can.
Yep, plan for the worst, hope for the best, as they say.
Yep, which, like, you know, I'll say I'm optimistic. Which I've tried to pride myself on being an optimist, especially at this point in my life. But, you know, I'm also cautious. I'm cautious, and I'm having backup plans just in case.
Which is the right move.
Yes. Because, oh boy, best laid plans and all that.
Yes.
As if I say that as if I plan. I have backup ideas.
As always, yeah.
Well, I suppose unless you have any further grander revelations.
No, I don't think so.
No. Yeah, I think, you know, I think it's been a weird one, but I think ultimately, like I said earlier, I think this has still been one of my better years. And like I said, it's like, you know, we've all had, a lot of people are probably thinking like, you know what, we've had worse lower points than this. At least on personal levels. It's just now it's a bit more universal.
Yeah.
But I am hopeful, and I don't regret the year that I've had. I don't think I would have traded it away. I would have hoped some things went differently, but I think everyone can say so.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I'm quite happy. It feels like at the end of each one of these, I kind of just comment back on myself and think I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually doing pretty good. It's just me like counseling myself essentially.
I don't know if I can say I'm happy because I don't know if I'm ever all the way happy, but I'm always getting happier, which is good.
That's fair.
I haven't been getting sadder.
That's fair. That's a healthy way of looking at it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this year I've been more and more open to the idea that you're like, yeah, I'm genuinely happy, and I'm fine with what I'm doing. So.
Yep.
I'll always do more.
Of course, you have to.
I used to be doing a lot less, so that's nice to think about. So yeah, I think I'm good. I think that'd round out the year. Please let 2021 be boring. Please let 2021 be boring. Just that's all I ask. Well, on that hopeful, cautious, and very strange note, as always, I am your host, Stuart.
And I am your host, Jacob.
Happy freaking New Year. And have a happy holiday season.
Everybody. Oh, yeah. Holiday. Yes. Woo!